my general feeling about that one dime. Hold on, let's finish. Actually, no, I don't feel like it's already 7:30. Chat, I'm jumping in. I hate to this is gonna bother some of you, but I just want to jump in. The main problem with a lot of the people, you know, the one dime type of interpretation of China is a lot of the sources. It's not that they're bad; they're just old. You know, talking about the way China was in 2012 and saying that's how China works when the entire that's before Xi Jinping went in. You know, it'd be like talking about America and saying, you know, it'd be in 2009 and going, well, this is how America works. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, it's the Trump era has completely changed the political trajectory of America, right? There's the pre-Xi reform and there's the post-Xi reform, right? And I think he acknowledged a lot of the ideas, but he didn't really engage with it. And I also really think a big problem is just not accepting that state-owned enterprise is a socialist idea. Like the idea, like, I'm sorry, but like this it portrays a very specific ideological framework to think like we need to have, you know, workplace democracy, right? Like workplace democracy and the sense of like, all right, everybody, should we have this new, okay, we're an airline. Should we have another route that goes from San Diego to St. Louis? Vote yes if we should have, and we can't, like, you know what I mean? Like, that's socialism to you. Socialism to you is voting on every, like, decision made inside of a workplace. Like, everyone, that, like, that is just a conception that you might have that I don't think means it's like a justification for socialism, right? And I think there's a really, I really think it doesn't rise to the level of scholarship that you need in order to engage with what the Communist Party of China is doing. I think a lot of Westerners are just not equipped, and I don't mean because, to be honest with you, in politics, you know, there's very little in the way of like empirical effort anymore. One of the problems I have in general with most people is they don't believe in empiricism in politics. Like, we get into this realm and then it's like, we don't want to test. We're not going to like test things and see how they work. That's almost like offensive. Like, all their political ideas have to happen a priori from their mind, from their, you know, they can't do something and then look and see if it works and then go, okay, that's working, and therefore we're going to adopt that policy. They can't do that. They don't want to do that. They want to talk about, they want to, like, you know, reason themselves like from their own mind, their own particulars. And the problem with that is, I think the best example of that is, did any of you guys watch the Japan versus Netherlands shit? Did any of you watch the Japan versus Netherlands World Cup game? There was a part of the game that was so offensive when it happened, I started ranting. And ask Vio about this. I'll show you. Hold on, let me find it. I just saw a clip of it in TikTok as I was starting up the stream. Oh, there it is. Oh, God. And it was a statement that when I heard it, I immediately started going to Vio and going, that's not how the world works. People simplify things down into these like simple concepts, and they make these rigid rules of you know, what should be like maybe a general observation, and then it gets hardened. It gets hardened into something that it then makes you dumber, because you can't just look at something and say like, okay, that may be true in general, but the world is way more complex, and there are circumstances, and it's actually not true. Right? Like, the world isn't as fixed as you say it is. And I don't know if I'm making this argument make sense. Let me just show you the clip, and then you'll see what I'm saying. Oh no. Didn't mean to do that. Okay. This is unironically why I love sport. This is unironically, if you're not a sports ball enjoyer, you're wrong. Okay? I'm sorry. You don't have to like them all, but you should find something you like.
The Japanese players think they're taller than they actually are because they persist on crossing it straight onto the heads of the Dutch defenders.
Yeah, I don't mind a low cross. I think that's fine. But they've got to play football, get it down and play pass and move.
That's a lovely pass.
That's
Chris.
So As soon as I heard that, I started ranting in VO going, that's not how this works. Yes, the Dutch players have tall center backs, and so you're at a disadvantage. But if they're going to give you, if they're going to play a defensive formation where they give you the wings and they give you the ball and the ability to serve it in, your odds of getting a header in may go from like, say, 30% down to 10%. But if you get so many more shots in from that, if they're leaving that strategy open, a lower percentage is still the right strat to take. This is actually how people fuck up, is they don't take what is being given to them because they have some rigid rule in their brain, some sort of like prejudgment, some sort of like ideological commitment that blinds them of the opportunity that's in front of them. So the Japanese players were playing the Netherlands, and I don't know if you know this, chat, but the Netherlands are really tall. And they have some very tall center backs, which are the defenders that play near their own goal, right? And when you're trying to go for a ball in the air, and somebody's much bigger than you, much taller than you, it's harder for you to get a header against them on a 50-50 ball, right? But that's just one element of a header. Like sometimes it's passed directly to you. They can't even make a play on it. So when I heard this, I started ranting and going, this guy's a fucking idiot. That's what the Japanese are being given, and they are taking advantage of the weakness that the Dutch are saying. They're saying, beat us in the air. We're going to let you cross it in.
The Japanese players think they're taller than they actually are because they persist on crossing it straight onto the heads of the Dutch defenders.
Yeah, I don't mind a low cross. I think that's fine. But they've got to play football, get it down and play, pass and move.
That's a lovely pass.
Maybe they are taller than you think they are.
2-2.
And like, okay, so why am I showing you this World Cup goal? I'm showing this for you to understand that this is something that I struggle with communicating to people, because so many people, they default to very rigid interpretations of the world. And that was actually a major flaw of the Soviet Union. One of the major flaws of the Soviet Union was that they had interpretations that were contingent. There were decisions being made by the Soviet Union. Maybe they were even the one that was best, that was the best decision with the evidence they had available at the time. But then the world showed that that decision was not working. And instead of going like, hey, we're doing scientific socialism here, that's not working, let's adjust. They made it into an appeal about how socialist you are. All socialists believe this, and if you don't believe it, then you're not a socialist. That was the problem of the Soviet Union, is there was an inflexibility, there was a dogmatism, there was a political and social enforcement, and it led to failure. And when I watched One Dime's video, I unironically thought that's what he was doing toward China. There was not really, like, there was it's a Western thing. Like, there is a contemptuousness toward the Communist Party of China. There is this kind of like they think that the communists are not doing what they say they're doing, except they do exactly what they're saying every single time. And it's weird. I don't get it. It's, oh yeah, they say they're building towards socialism by building up the means of production, but no, they're not. And it's be like, but yes, they are. They're literally focused on raising the standard of living of everyone. Oh, they're only doing that to keep power. If politicians do things to make our standard of living better, and you're objectively seeing how it's improving better and faster than every other country in the world, maybe who cares? Maybe we just look at that and say, hey, they're improving the lives of Chinese people, and their Chinese people's lives are improving faster than everywhere else. Maybe that is actually evidence that it is socialist. He wants Nordic-style capitalism. But in order to have Nordic-style capitalism, you had to have a contingent historical reality. The Nordics happened because of a contingent historical reality. They had strong socialist movements, and the Soviet Union existed. So the capitalist class was very concerned about revolutionary. So they were willing to grant concessions, and geopolitically, it made sense for the United States for them to allow those capitalists to make those concessions because of the geographic proximity to the Soviet Union, right? And they actually played on Nordic nationalism to keep them separated from the Soviet Union. These were contingent decisions that were being made on both sides in order to allow the Nordics to happen. The Nordics probably cannot happen without all of those conditions. And when the Soviet Union fell, what is happening to the Nordics? All those concessions, they're trying to rip them back. Not because they're not working, but because they are. And that's the problem. It's like, I could say I'd rather live in Denmark than Beijing, right? I could say that. And that is true. It's probably better to be Dutch than it is to be Chinese right now. You were born in one of those countries and you were saying you don't know what level of wealth or status you're going to have. Would you rather be born in China or Denmark? The answer is Denmark. But that's individualism, right? That's individualism. That's not necessarily the march of history. Maybe that's definitely probably not going to be true in 50 years from now. Denmark is Danish, not Dutch. You get my point. Sorry, Danish. You're right. I just had the Netherlands on. That's why my brain is failing. The Dutch are on screen. But if you'd rather be from the Netherlands or Danish, and like the reason why I'm saying this, you know, this is obviously no one else making political streams talks like this, which is part of the problem that we have. Part of the problem is that most of the shit that's out there that's you know, is slop. I actually think what One Dime put out is not slop. I actually thought it was very interesting, and it made me firm up some of the thoughts that I had. I just don't agree with him at all. And I think one of the problems with One Dime, and I mean this out of love, is that he's getting emotionally polarized against certain groups of people. And it's coming through on the analysis. The analysis is now, you know, he had some good insights, but now he's becoming emotionally polarized against, say, like AOC supporters or people that like China. And it's like, yeah, they're not engaging in the most deep intellectual way. That's true. But politics is not necessarily that. It's also the way it interacts with the masses. And it's a good thing for our politics that more people like China. If more regular people look at China and say, hey, it's not so bad, that's good for our politics, even if I substantively differ from Xi Jinping, which I do, because China has a different historical contingency than us. But there are some things that I think we should cherry pick out of there. State-owned enterprise, grabbing control of finance capital and controlling it through the state. Things like state ownership or much more state control of land and speculation of property. Like, there are things that we can look at China and say, hey, they're doing really well with these things. We could copy those policies. Now, the idea of like forming our politics into a state party system, you know, that's not happening. So we can't do that. But there are policy ideas that we could take and we could use. Thoughts about Mamdani's Trans City Clinic denying care to trans youth. That's just the law, unfortunately. Children, you cannot unless Congress, you know, creates a specific right to practice medicine on people without parental consent. You can't do that. Also, I bet you it's not even true. I mean, New York City's municipal hospital system already offers trans healthcare providers. This new clinic is a pilot program for direct, low-cost drop-in alternative outside the H&H system. But Mamdani and the health commissioner have said they plan to expand services to cover minors. Okay, well, there you go. Now, by the way, this propaganda, interesting. My guess is they mean unaccompanied minors, right? Like, again, you can't, unless they're emancipated, children, there's been a few exceptions. One of those is abortion. Like, we have crafted exceptions for parental notification for abortion, but that is a legislatively granted right. And that only exists in some blue states, not all states. I'm pretty sure in Pennsylvania, if you want an abortion, you need to have parental consent. I think the Pit even had a scene about this. The only real L's from Zoran are yimbism and not firing Tish, but firing Tish will come eventually. I'm all sure of it. Okay, like, again, that's such another good example of like serious versus unserious commentary. A lot of the people that want to hold over Tish over Zoran's head, they're putting the cart before the horse. And they're exactly the type of people I don't want in our movement because they're kind of stupid. And I'll tell you why I'm saying that. Because New York City, the NYPD's political power is very strong. If you're attacking Zoran, you're attacking somebody who's sympathetic with your position, who wants to reform the NYPD, but is being constrained by the NYPD's political power. So instead of you helping him, you're actually making the NYPD stronger. Now, if you don't believe Zoran's on your side, well, then no one will ever be on your side, right? Like, that is the problem. The problem is the NYPD is very powerful. It's not that Zoran isn't doing enough to pummel the NYPD. And that is like, that's kind of the issue here is like, we're not winning. Are you winning city council races? We just lost a city council race to a centrist who likes the NYPD. Did you do anything about that? Did you help them? Did you say a mummer's word about it? The police riots under Dinkins is something he's deeply aware of. We need another 2020 protest in order to have momentum to defeat the police. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, exactly. It's a lot of people, they don't really know anything about politics, but they talk about it every day, but they talk about it like they're 12. And I kind of want us to move on beyond the 12-year-olds. You know, like, like a perfect example of this is I'm going to have Ryan Grimm on the stream. Maybe not this week because I'm going to have Darlisa on or Mirat on. So probably not this week, but next week. And the thing is, like, I'm supporting, you know me, I'm supporting black women to lead the socialist movement. I'm not using them as some sort of prop for myself. I'm legitimately giving them money out of my own pocket because I want them to win. Because all I care about is winning, right? I don't, this is not, I don't, you know, I'm supporting Graham Plattner and I'm also supporting Darlisa. Maylot, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so bad with names. It's actually embarrassing. It's a huge flaw of mine. I need to do a hyperfixation where I just focus, like learn on how to pronounce everyone's name and just like memorize. Like I was a Che Ose super fan. I wanted him to primary Hakeem Jeffries. Like, do you see that? Like, if you legitimately think Hassan or I or Ryan Grimm or these people are racist, that's crazy. Ryan Grimm, I didn't agree with his interpretation, and I didn't agree with the way that he explained it. But I think he was reflecting on a certain anxiety that exists out there, which is a lot of people like to make very lazy Bernie bro type arguments. That's what they did in 2020 and 2016 against the left. They said it's led by white men, even if when it wasn't. It was used in the Democratic Party to attack the left. When Zoran Mamdani won, he won white men. Women did not vote for Zoran in the primary. Men did, especially young men, especially white young men. They were overwhelmingly in Zoran's camp. Does that mean that Zoran is the racist candidate? Like, does that make sense to you? I think what I'm trying to say is like the way that Ryan talked about it is Gen X brain rot, not the effective way of talking about it. But there definitely is a cynical use of identity politics against left-wing, you know, white men. There is a cynical, and we saw it with Bernie. Like, it's not like I'm making it up and it's not about me, but they used it against Bernie. And now that same playbook is being used against Graham Plattner, where there's these bad faith, like, you know, because within the Democratic Party, within the left, we recognize white privilege and we try to work against it. And we know that white men are given extra fucking credit in our society. We do know that. But like, it's a very important part of our movement. Like, do you guys know that without white men, Barack Obama does not win the presidency without getting a lot of white men votes? 41% of white men voted for Obama. 41% of white men voted for Obama. Now, on net, that means more voted for John McCain, right? But if that number goes down, Republicans win. You understand that, right? Like, we need to have a large fraction of white men voting for black women candidates in order for them to win. Now, I'm not saying you make appeals to them based on their whiteness. That's not what I'm saying. That would be racist. But to say that there is, like, we can ignore these swaths and we play on the turf of the right, where we do this kind of like, where we reify white identity as an organizing principle of the right, we have to work against that. So how do we work against this? Not by pandering to whiteness, but by talking about a cross-racial coalition. That's the antidote. It's not like, you know, if you're not self-flagellating enough, I don't want you in the movement. That's how you lose to fascism. And by the way, all these people I'm talking about, they're not voting on their whiteness. They are white, which is something society puts on them and they have privilege from. But that's different than organizing around their whiteness. Do you understand what I'm saying? And in Maine, 95% of the people are white. So of course we're going to help a white leftist out of Maine, because almost all the people in Maine are white. So the guy who's going to come up and be the left-wing leader is probably going to be white. That's not that important or noticeable, to be quite frank with. Now, if Grant Plattner was out there raging against reparations or talking about welfare queens or trading on whiteness as a way to vote for him, he's not. He is not doing that. And I think it's a little bit weird to try to put that on him, which is exactly what they did to Bernie and exactly what they tried to do with Zoran, by the way. It's exactly what they're trying. They did that to Chris Rabb. They said he's got the vote of the gentrifiers because Chris Rabb, he won because white people voted for him at a very high rate. In Philadelphia, white people voted for Chris Rabb at highest. He won because of white people. That's just objective reality. We're just looking at it. And why is that? Well, his politics, very far left politics, appeals to a certain type of person, certain type of community, which is ultra politically aware left-wing people, which oftentimes are upper class or middle class, college educated white people. The intelligentsia, which doesn't just include white people, includes people of all races. But that is the type of white person that likes the left-wing candidates. Even though on issues of race, Chris Rabb was to the left of the other candidates, he did poorer with black people. He finished a close third with black people. It was split relatively evenly between the candidates. But he won because he got 80% of white voters. Does that mean we don't like Chris Rabb? I mean, it's just, all I'm doing is describing the political reality. And if you want to win power, like really win power and get policies changed, I think a lot of people don't really care about that. I really don't think enough of you care about that, which is if you want reparations, if you want intersectionality in Medicare for all, if you want better public schools, if you want higher, if you want better public transit, we need to win power, which means getting 50% plus one in these elections. And there are certain things that are done that to divide and defeat the left. And one of them is racial politics, like the type that the liberals are happy to do, which is they're happy to stir up racial conflict to frustrate what? A class conscious, cross-racial, working class coalition. They're trying to, that's the oldest trick in the book. And like, if you're playing into that, if you're helping the liberals, if you're assisting in that, then you're really on the side of Zionism. You're really on the side of whiteness, unironically. I don't understand why we're still arguing over this shit because it feels like we're close to fucking fascist concentration camps. Well, exactly. It's part of the way of disarming the left's resistance. If you think people of color talking about, what's this? Talk about their perspective as grievance, you are delusional race. I could agree more. Like when we watched Chris Rabb, when we watched Chris Rabb, do you notice how when I watched what he actually said, I didn't think it was that bad? I thought it was completely normal. And it was right. And I think it's good to point out that black men are not traditionally given the same latitude. Like, look at the way Obama was treated versus the way Trump is treated. I think it's pretty clear that if Obama had 3 baby mamas, he wouldn't have been president, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, let's be completely honest. That's completely true. That's completely true. But, and this is the big but, capital B but, Graham Plattner is not running against Barack Obama. He's running against Susan Collins. Graham Plattner is not running on a whites first policy. He's running on policies that are going to help black people more than white people. You know that, right? Like, Medicare for all helps black people more than white people in this country. Like, that's a fact. That is true because white people overwhelmingly have insurance because the system is designed for their benefit. There is an insurance gap and an insurance quality gap that disproportionately harms black people. So when Graham Plattner says, I support Medicare for all, what he's saying is, I want to invest more money per capita for black people. I want to improve black people's Medicare quality. That's what he's saying. That's what the policy is. And I think if we're going to be on the left, we should be pointing that out. If you care about reducing black women's infant mortality, you have to vote for Graham Plattner. That is actually true. Because Susan Collins is voting to take away health from black people. She is literally trying to destroy Obamacare. She's literally trying to make it worse. She's trying to make it, and she's also making it worse for poor white people too. That is actually the point. And I think one of the issues is like, listen, there's going to be white people in this movement, or it's fucking toast. And it's not to say that they are. I'm white, not because I'm supporting whiteness, but because whiteness is what our society is organized around. I happen to be someone who has white privilege because I am considered white. However, I'm also a leftist, which means that they degrade and my privilege gets stripped away from me. And that, you guys need to understand that. Like, that is not completely. There's some things that I will not lose completely. But let me tell you, if I go in a Black Lives Matter protest and I'm wearing Black Lives Matter shirt and I go right up to the police line and I say Black Lives Matter, they're gonna shoot me with a fucking gun because I am a left winger. They're not gonna go, yes, sir, right this way, sir. They're gonna say, oh, this guy supports reforming the cops, beat his ass. They cracked the skull of a 75-year-old white man because he was pro Black Lives Matter. I need people to get their solidarity up. I need you guys to get your solidarity up. There isn't like some sort of like protected white left-wing identity in this country. There is not. And it's a very, and this stuff comes back from Hillary Clinton. I'm sorry, like maybe if you're too young, you don't know what game is being played here. This is Hillary Clinton's strategy against Bernie, which was to divide people by race, imply that the left is white, and then try to use like this racial grievance politics to divide the left against itself so that the centrist corporate police state that we live in can win. That's what they're doing with, and now they're doing it for Susan Collins, and you're falling for it. It's embarrassing. You gotta be better than that, man. We're still gonna be doing identity politics when we're in the camp. There's nothing wrong with using identity, as long as behind it, there is solidarity. There's nothing wrong with going to black people and saying, we need to invest more in your community to make up for the fact that black people have been left behind and have been underinvested in. And that's what we will do as a socialist movement. But it's another thing to say like, hey, you know, this guy is a white guy and he's running in Maine. Therefore, I think we're going to try to get him defeated because black people would not be treated with the same level of like grace if they were running for office. That's baby shit. That is honest to God baby shit. If Graham Plattner was walking up there and saying Medicare for all whites, I would not support him. You understand that? Like if he was running a white racist campaign, then I wouldn't support him. And I don't think you should either. But he's not doing that. And it's kind of important that we focus on that. And like, you know, part of any movement is, you know, listen, if you're under the age of 25 and you're new to politics, I get wanting to make your mark. Like I do. I actually understand. Like, but if you were not conscious in the last 10 years of if you don't know how these things have been weaponized against the left, you got to take some time and study, right? There is no Ilhan Omar. There is no Summer Lee without Bernie Sanders. Like Bernie Sanders was the backbone of those candidates. Like the people that came around the Bernie Sanders campaign, the white people too, that came around the Bernie Sanders campaign, led to the squad, led to Summer Lee, led to Ilhan Omar, led to Rashida Tlaib. All of these guys, all these people, they had Bernie Sanders volunteers for 2016. That was the core of their movement. Chris Rabb, same shit, right? Like, and I'm not saying that, you know, we own them or anything. I'm just saying that it's an ideological fight. This is the history. And the biggest impediment we have is the fact that there is a establishment Democratic Party, which is very firmly rooted in these kind of racial bad faith accusations against the left in favor of literal cops, in favor of Val Demings, who was what? She was a black woman, but she was the police chief of Orlando. And she was a far right winger on police politics. She was endorsing Donald Trump's police bills when she was running in Florida. Like that. And who did they defeat? Mandela Barnes, who was a black man running in Wisconsin. Mandela Barnes was a black man running in Wisconsin. And I said 2018, but the 2022 Senate election, he ended up losing by 1%. Wisconsin is white as fuck. Somehow white people in Wisconsin, they were supporting Mandela Barnes. The left wingers were supporting Mandela Barnes. He ended up losing. Why did he lose? Did he lose because white leftists like me didn't support him? No, he lost because the establishment Democrats said he was unviable and spent it all in Florida instead. So here we have a black man, a black leftist man who was abandoned by the Democratic Party. They're trying to do the same thing to Graham Plattner that they did to Mandela Barnes. It isn't about his race. It's about his politics. And if you're going to let yourself get tricked by this shit, if you're going to be a useful idiot for the centrists and the Zionists, then I have no use for you. If you're going to trip us up, you're allowed to just shut the fuck up. That is okay, right? You're allowed to go and focus on something else. Like, we need your help. We need your help for Darlisa. We need your help for Francesca Wong. We need your help for a lot of really great people of color who are running for office as socialists or leftists. We need your help. You're allowed to shut the fuck up about Grant Plattner. We can all acknowledge. Did I say Francesca Wong? Francesca Hong. God damn it. My brain is rotting today. Before Bernie, there was no such thing as an American tanky. It was way worse. There was no left wing before Bernie. And the way they defeated Bernie was by cooking up and spinning up this bullshit. And it was never true. And I'm not going to be shy about it. It was never true. It's not to say that Bernie didn't have blind spots. It didn't say that there wasn't places we could get better. But the people that are working against Grant Plattner are the cops, are the Zionists. You're helping them. Your point is valid on Barnes. Well, yes, Barnes is not, again, politics can't continue to grow. People continue to grow. Barnes is not left-wing enough. People have continued to push further left. He's not left-wing enough. But had he won, our world would be a hell of a lot better place. I would have loved to have Mandela Barnes representing Wisconsin. A national political figure, a black man, a Bernie-crat. I would have, from a white-as-fuck state, lily-white state, had a black Bernie-crat. They didn't want that to happen. He would have been a fucking presidential tier candidate. But now he's gone. Now he's done. Now he's not as left wing as Francesca. Francesca's the DSA candidate. I'm supporting her. I'm just talking about context, right? Barnes led in most polls during the summer of 2022. In the weeks prior to the election, Johnson took a lead of more than 3 points in the polling average. Though Johnson ultimately prevailed, this election was the closest of his three Senate victories. They threw Mandela Barnes under the bus, and they kept Ron Johnson, who's a mega Trumple. That's what they're doing. That's what they're trying to do with Grant Plattner. It's not about race. It's about the fact that they're left wing. What if Plattner betrays us? What are your thoughts on Maher endorsing Plattner? Bill Maher is a fucking idiot, but he does know one thing. His hatred of Donald Trump is greater than all his other ideas. And if he's smart enough to say that Grant Plattner should win, fine by me. Vote for him. As long as Grant Plattner is not giving him a goddamn thing other than a promise to go after Trump, then I'm fine with it. That's what a winning coalition looks like. I think a lot of people have never won anything. Part of the thing that happens is, like, I get into conversation with people that have never won anything or even tried to win anything. Do you know how hard it is to go and convince the majority of a community of something left wing? Do you understand what it means that Zohran Mamdani won the majority of people in New York City from a far left point of view? Like, can you comprehend what that fucking means? That over 1 million people showed up to vote for a Democratic. So, like, do you know what that means? Can you grok it? Can you understand it? Can you process that? I don't think you can. I don't think you can get it. Grok it. ChatGPT it. Claire was on Subway Takes. And the reason why we're having this conversation is right now, there is a supposed Iran war deal that might be passed. And who are we listening to? And who are we watching? Ryan Grimm, Jeremy Scahill. They started Drop Site News, one of the most important left-wing and anti-imperialist news sources of all time. Original reporting, journalism. Without Drop Site News, there would be so much more right-wing government propaganda in our feeds. It would be so much harder for us to understand what's fucking going on. I may not agree with Jeremy or Ryan about every single thing they say, but without Drop Site, all of us are much worse off. And I am not I've done journalism in this stream. I've done original reporting in this stream, right? But I do not, and Hassan is the same. But what we do is nothing compared to the gumshoe work that Ryan Grimm is doing. I'm not going, and I may disagree with the way he argues or articulates certain points, but he is absolutely vital for our movement. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. We need Ryan Grimm. We're going to need him for a long time to come. I've heard people fantasizing about Plattner hiding his Islamophobic power level. I don't know if I should call them out as stupid or should just let them get away with saying idiotic things like that. All right. I posted something on Sunday. You may not have seen it, chat.
There is a deep shame and anger and a horror at the fact that we as Americans are complicit in this. You know, I think Graham Plattner put it best when he recently said, our taxpayer dollars should be building schools and hospitals in this country, not bombs to destroy them in Gaza. And there is that deep sense of the contradiction in our politics.
You know, you guys think that Zohran Mamdani is protecting an Islamophobe? Is that really what we're saying? Is that what we're saying? And why hide your Islamophobia? We've got Democrats calling for fucking Muslims to be deported who are not even, it's not even a scandal. Like, what do you guys, it's like one of those things that's really funny to me because again, it's a sign that somebody is not really involved in politics. They just use it for clout. Because I go to shit, I gotta tell you, I'm out on the streets. I go to DSA events. Many of you, if you're in LA, you've seen me there. I gotta say, the loudest people, I don't see them there. I don't see you guys on the street. It's kind of odd. I don't see you guys out there. I must have missed it. College allied groups already booked 100 million worth of Plattner attack ads. The GOP plans to spend over 300 million through election day, nearly double their 2020 ad spend in Maine. I want you to understand something, Chad, and I'm going to start, and I'm going to tell you this. If people are not really on board with Plattner at this point, I don't really think they're redeemable for me. There's something severely wrong with their politics if they're like attacking Graham Plattner at this point. Do you think $300 million of Zionist money is there because this guy is helping Israel? There's like 1 million people in Maine. That means they're spending $300 per person. Oh, 1.4 million. 300 million. How many voters are there going to be? Like 500,000? Okay, it looks like there is about 800,000 voters for president. So they're going to be spending like $400 a voter. The Israel lobby and the GOP are doing everything they can to keep Susan Collins in power. The Zionists know what they're doing. How come you're not able to like look at reality and go, the Zionists are doing something. I'm going to work against it. And ultimately, like, I will say this, like, if that's not how you operate your politics, I don't want you around me. I really don't. And I don't want any of you guys to, you know, like, honestly, I want you to choose. I want you to choose. I'm sorry, Chad. I'm going to have to make you choose. Either you're going to fight Israel with me or you're going to work with Israel. If you're going to work with Israel, I mean, these people have already tried to, like, get me deplatformed for Israel. I mean, like, I don't know what else to say. Like, you got to choose. You gotta choose. If you're gonna work for Israel, bat and panada, whatever. If you're gonna do that, then do that. Separate yourself from me, please. Like, if you're gonna go and you're gonna work to protect Israel and the genocide, and you're gonna try to wrap it in some sort of moralism, go do it somewhere else, man. I don't think you can be saved. Do you think they're spending 300 million because this doesn't matter? Like, I need you to explain your position. You think they're spending $300 million because it doesn't matter. But the guy whose rhetoric is overwhelmingly to the left could turn out to be a bad guy even though, so we should support the person who outright says genocide is good. We don't have the right to not do anything. We don't have the right, we don't have other choices. Let's say we win in North Carolina. Let's say we win re-election in Georgia. Let's say Abdul wins in Michigan. We don't have any movement. Let's say we also win in Ohio with Sherrod Brown, who's like down in the polls. Even if we win with Graham Plattner, we still don't take the Senate. And that's winning a seat that we don't win in North Carolina. We've tried many times. A seat in Ohio that's heavily biased against the left. And that's holding on to Michigan, which they're going to do the same thing they're doing to Graham Plattner. They're going to do the same thing to Abdul. They're going to spend another $400 million. We'd have to flip Texas, which has never happened. We'd have to flip Montana. We'd have to win lily white Iowa. We'd have to win in Nebraska with another lily white candidate who's worse than Graham Plattner, 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 worse than Graham Plattner. On the policies, every single other Democrat is worse than Graham Plattner. The only one who's better is Abdul, who, I don't know if you noticed, we've been supporting since the beginning. White, 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 white. It's not like they're not white. And this isn't a state where there's a very large black population where you could justify, you know what I mean? Like Maine is 95% white. Why is Graham Plattner being white some big fucking deal? This is the pro-APAC senator down here in North Carolina. When's the last time you heard Roy Cooper's name mentioned on any of these grifter channels? Charles Booker, I'm sorry. This is one of the reddest states in the country. It's not happening, man. Like, what do you want me to say? Like, you know, I would love him to win, but it's one of the reddest states of the country. What do you want me to say? Okay. Like I go out there. If you're in Kentucky and you want to work on the campaign, have at it. I want him to win. The last time I saw a Roy Cooper fan was Edgermentum. Yeah, classic. Why do you think, and like, by the way, the reason why we get so much Graham Plattner coverage and conversation is because the Zionists are paying for it. If you are going against Graham Plattner, they're boosting your shit. That's what's happening. So, and everyone knows this. If a creator, they know why doing anti-Graham Plattner shit, Zionists are boosting my shit. They know that. They're doing it anyway. I need you to know that. I need you to accept that. Everybody who's spending a lot of time going after Graham Plattner is being boosted by Israel to help them do their genocide, and they know that. I know it's going to break some people's parasocial brains to hear it, but we're not naive. We're creators. We know how this shit works. We look at this shit. I'm doing this even though it hurts me because it's what's right. I'd rather have 4,500 people in this chat who are intelligent than 5,500 people that are dumb as dog shit. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I know exactly how much this costs me. I know exactly what, what kind of people, I'm going to lose the 300 worst people out of this community. It is what it is. Isn't Sherrod Brown just a shitty dino? No, unfortunately, Sherrod Brown will probably be in the top 15 or 20 best United States senators if he wins. Just to give you a concept of how right-wing the Democratic senators are, Sherrod Brown will probably be one of the better senators. And why is that? Because he is at least winnable on Medicare for All. He was the original author of Medicare for All. The first Medicare for All bill was written by Sherrod Brown, although now he's become a public option guy. He's very pro-union, and he's anti-Wall Street. But he's bad on Israel, and he's bad on other shit. But compared to the rest of the Democrats, he'll be better than the average Democrat. This isn't a disagreement. This is, I know what I'm talking about, and you don't situation. Right? Like if you hear me say that and you think it's wrong, you just don't know how bad the Democratic senators actually are. You actually don't know enough. I'm sorry, but this is a knowledge gap. Who are you talking to? Everybody who tries to disagree with, like, some of the things you just don't know what you're talking about, and people just go by vibes and they start saying shit. And because they're used to being in creators that don't know anything, and so when they spout their vibe shit, the creator just kind of floats with the vibe instead of telling them, no, you're wrong. You don't get that a lot. In other creators, you don't get no, you're wrong a lot because they're floating on vibes. They don't know shit either. Who are they going to tell you you're wrong? Because if I say you're wrong, I have to prove you're wrong. I have to like bring up facts and evidence, right? So if I don't know my ass from the hole in the ground, I could just float on the vibe and just nod along. That's why they're always staring at their chat, because they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. You're wrong about Roy Cooper, Mike. What am I wrong about? Is Roy actually better than I thought? He's DMFI, JAC, and J Street. 82,000 from the Israel lobby. I mean, maybe he won't be that bad. Bro, you and Hassan are on a tightrope, literally losing viewers because you're against Israel, so you lose Zionists, and then you lose the brain dead viewers that you could gain if you just went the anti-Semitic route like Nick Fuentes. Because I'm against anti-Semitism. It's because we're principled leftists and we want the left to win, and we're never going to win if you're all dumb as fuck. In order for the left to win, we have to actually have discipline and intelligence, and we have to work together because we are getting fucking bombarded. They're not losing viewers? Absolutely. Did I lose? What the fuck are you saying? Of course I have. What the fuck are you saying? What the fuck of course I have. Your viewer count is pretty stable. I mean, yes, it is because my audience is actually not dumb. I've already trained you guys to reject this dumb shit over the years. But people come in here and I have to fix it. I start seeing dumbass shit happening, and then the reason why I have such a strong program here is because if I could get all 4,000 of you on board with what I'm saying, we can then influence other communities. Part of the reason, like, I'm not saying that Hassan would not be supporting Graham Plattner like he is if it wasn't for me, but the fact that there is such a strong group of people that are pro Graham Plattner in his community helps him do what it helps him push the ideas that we need to be, forward in order to take power, right? Like, it's all part of a larger program. We gotta have people that are disciplined and on side in order for us to do what needs to be done. Because a lot of the arguments that are made by the anti-Graham Plattnerites, they are superficially appealing. They are emotionally appealing. They appeal to your pathos, right? They, you know, listen, the crimes that were committed in Iraq and Afghanistan are fucking horrible. And I want to punish those people that did those crimes. I really do. I really, really fucking do. And we're powerless on the left. I unsubscribed because you kept calling us dumb and you're the most arrogant and condescending person I've ever encountered. Okay, bye. You're exactly the type of person I want to leave. Like, you're exactly the type of person I want to leave because nothing you said was about facts. Like, you're exactly the type of person I want to leave. That's why woke one has got to go, right? Because it's not based on any kind of like formation that's trying to achieve anything. It's all interpersonal advantage, right? That's what woke one was about. Woke one was about getting a sinecure or a job as a diversity instructor. Mostly white women, by the way. It wasn't about diversity. It was about grifting off of diversity. That's why woke one lost. It wasn't about achieving something. It was about interpersonal grift. I'll get hired. I'll get a job lecturing people about how they're racist instead of actually implementing anything that challenges whiteness at a societal level. It's weird how people want their hug box. I don't want those people here, which is fine, right? Like, it is what it is. Every fucking stream is like half I'm the only leftist that's right, and the other half is I'm the first leftist to say X. I would never in a million years say I'm the only leftist that's right. I would never in a million years say that. I would never in a million years say that. What? I would say there's not a lot of leftist streamers that are saying these things because it's true. I watch them. I'm not, you know, like, I show you the people that I think have insight. It's just people crying because they don't have integrity. Well, it's because they got tricked. It's embarrassing to be tricked. But, you know, I spent some time in securities arbitration fighting against people that tricked people. You know, one of the things that I learned, which is why I tell these people to leave, is because when somebody's tricked, they're the last person to believe it. You could have every single person around them, their wife, their kids, their parents, their pastor, they're all saying, hey, man, that guy was a grifter and he stole your money. And they'll say, fuck you to their own family. And they'll go to their grifter will be getting prosecuted for fraud. They'll go to the fucking trial and testify on behalf of the scammer. Because the ego destruction of being tricked and admitting it, that takes such a level of maturity that a lot of people don't have. That's why whenever a pimp is prosecuted for exploiting people, a lot of the people that are in his corner are the people that he exploited. Because he creates a psychological prison of their own ego. And it's fucking dark, but it's true. I'm not here to protect those people's egos. I don't give a shit. I'd rather all of you see what's happening so you're resistant to it in the future. I can't. Some of these people that have been fooled by like Bad Empanada, they can never be unfooled. They're always going to be stupid for the rest of their lives now. Because their entire ego is now dedicated to proving the point that winning power in America is actually not worth doing, and it's all going to be a betrayal. It's all going to fail. It's never going to matter. Their egos now have to make that true. If, for example, Graham Plattner wins and AOC wins the presidency, and then they withdraw weapons shipments from Israel, and then Israel starts to have, you know, a population of settlers starts fleeing Israel in the West Bank, and then eventually there's some sort of collapse, and the movement keeps growing, and then we sanction Israel like we did South Africa, right? And Israel, as we know it, collapses. These people will say that AOC winning and Graham Plattner winning didn't matter. It was all inevitable. Like, they're never going to say, like, oh, yeah, you know what? It turns out you guys were right about that. It was right that, you know what? We needed to have people that were anti-Israel in power, and they were able to put pressure on Israel to get it done. And it was a combination of both international pressure, America cutting off the umbilical cord of settler colonialism to Israel, and of course the indigenous resistance. And that, as a mosaic, defeated Israel. They'll never say that. They'll never say that. It doesn't matter if that was true in South Vietnam. It doesn't matter if it was true in South Africa, right? They just have a fixed ego, and there's nothing that can pierce that bubble. There's no evidence. There's no argument. There's no logic. Their ego is in the idea that working on the electoral left doesn't matter, and no evidence will change their mind. It doesn't matter if socialism grows by 10x if AOC runs for president, DSA gets 1 million members. They will never say it was a good idea to support her. Nothing can happen. These guys are fixed. They are immobile. There's no evidence that can change their mind. Nothing. And that is why they're stupid. That's why I want them gone. Because if you're not open to having your mind changed, then you have no use to me. You've declared yourself my enemy. You're never going to change your mind. Fucking leave. How does someone's brain get like that? Well, it's about identity formation, right? You have to understand that all of us are nursing psychic wounds. Not to psychologize too much, but all of us are nursing certain kind of identity vulnerabilities. For me, I put a lot of stock in my intelligence, right? So if I ever feel stupid, that wounds me psychically, and I have to like really work with that. But because I'm mature, I've recognized that my intelligence is based on my process of correcting error, not being infallible. So I've created a cognitive behavioral therapy-based coping mechanism of when I have an error, intelligence is correcting that error, not never having any. And I consider myself intelligent because I correct error as soon as I find it. And so I'm constantly reforming and reevaluating my worldview and changing based on the new information that comes in. But for some people, they have declared these, like, I'm a good person because I'm a socialist or a leftist. And anybody who challenges the way that I conceive my own positions is a bad person. And I'm gonna lash out against everybody who challenges any of my views, and I'm gonna make them pay a price for disagreeing. Well, guess what? I'm gonna pay that price with interest. I'm a veteran of the Third Psych War. Thank you for recognizing my part in playing your mind for the Vine Vampire. Well, no, it's just like, guys, we're in a fucking death struggle with Zionism in our movement, and you're helping them. And that doesn't cause you to hesitate? Every time I end up lined up with Zionists, I stop what I'm doing. It hits me in the head with a hammer, and I'm like, it's like Brad Lander. What makes me hesitate about, Zoran is Brad Lander. Brad Lander is the guy who's going to stab us in the back. You guys are talking about Graham Plattner. It's Brad Lander. It's very clear that's the guy who's going to stab us in the back. But guess what? But the reason why we support Brad Lander is because he helps diffuse accusations of anti-Semitism. Prominent Jewish politician. He goes and he stands next to all these anti-Zionists and Muslims and says they're good people. Yes, 18 months from now, he's going to vote for Israel against us. He's a liberal Zionist. But tactically right now, he's helping us. Okay. Just know that he's going to do that. Don't be fucking surprised. Maybe I'll be wrong about him and he'll turn out to be better than I thought. But if you want to know who I'm worried about, that's Brad Lander. But right now, he needs us for power. So he's on our side. But after he's in, well, then that's a different question. Satan Nahu had a shrine to the COVID shot in his office, but that doesn't stop you from advocating for the cancer shot. I want you to understand something. Israel was the fastest vaccinated population in the world. COVID vaccines work. You think they're injecting cancer into Israelis? Get your shit together, man. He's also far more malleable than the Goldman. Oh, yeah. I mean, he's malleable, of course. He's being like, you can literally see identity formation working on Brad Lander, right? He identified with Zoran, and so he's been moving in our direction, even on Israel. When he's a fucking Zionist, he's still moving again. Now he's saying he won't give any weapons to Israel. That's a dramatic move, but he's still not pro-Palestinian. Like he's still looking for reasons to like stab us in the back. It is what it is. Now, if this conversation is uncomfortable, I get it. I don't like it. I don't like having this conversation. I wish that I could have a reasonable conversation with the anti-Plattner people, but they don't give a shit about what I care about. I care about stopping Trump's fucking reign of terror on this world. And the Democratic Party sucks, but they could at least slow it down. We could slow it down by taking the Senate away. And like, that's just like obviously true. We don't have time to go like, well, why don't we start our own third party and then work over the next decade? No, we don't have that. Now, if we have a situation where a dirty break happens like they have in the UK, notice that I'm supporting the Green Party in the UK. Notice that I'm 100% behind the Green Party in the UK. I'm not anti-break. I'm not anti-third party. Just give me a situation where it actually seems like it might work and I'll do it. Leftists who think medical science isn't corrupted by profit motive are actually delusional. Oh, I agree completely. You know who else got the vax really quickly? Murdoch and Fred. Same people who ran the anti-vax propaganda every time. All time for hogs. Yeah. I mean, all the anti-vax people got vaccinated. All the big like right-wing commentators got vaccinated. All the ones promoting the anti-vax shit got vaccinated. All the rich people cut the line to get the vaccine first. The reason why the vaccine shit comes up is because humans have a cognitive bias for purity, and injection is a it is not something that we really do in nature. It's a construct of human society which goes against our instincts. Having something pierce your skin and then injected to you is something that we are kind of in our monkey brain designed to reject as obviously a bad idea. Like, you know, it's like a snake injecting venom into you, or you know what I mean? Like, it's just something that we, in our instincts, we feel bad about. It's, you know, penetrating our skin, injecting us with a foreign substance. There is a kind of like base rejection, and it goes against our purity instinct, right? That's why people are so fucking fixated on it, because it's their monkey brain. And I understand it completely. It feels weird when you're getting a shot. Right? It's not something where you're like, yay, I'm getting a vaccine. You're like, ugh. Like, even me, when I got the shot, I was always like, ugh. You know, you always have that kind of feeling like, ew, I got a shot. I don't like that. It is what it is. But if you're intelligent, you're able to kind of like use the front of your brain and go, you know, obviously, instinctually and physically, that doesn't feel good. But here's all the evidence that it works. Here's the, you know, blah, 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 blah. You're able to make yourself do the thing, even though your instincts are against it. Sort of like going to the gym. Your instincts are to be lazy, to preserve energy. But you go to the gym and you move iron around for no fucking reason in order to train your muscles and train your body, because you recognize that there is a health benefit and an attractiveness benefit, which is your instinct. So you're like you're using your reasoning mind to, you know, for other reasons. Right? You understand being sedentary actually causes long-term harm. So you go to the gym, even though it feels like you don't want to, because it's nice to be lazy. This is your front of your brain fighting against some of your instincts in order for your long-term benefit. Holy shit, this topic is bringing out all the weirdos in the chat. I'm not even offended by people, you know, asking questions about vaccines or whatever. The reason why we have such a weird vaccine culture is because we're too individualists in our society. I don't even think there should be a question. Like, I don't even think there should be any exceptions, except for like medical necessity. Like, you literally cannot take it. But you should not have anything to do with that. That should only be something a doctor puts in your medical file. There shouldn't even be a question about it. It shouldn't even be like a topic of conversation. It should be like driving on the right side of the road. There is no debate. There is no opting out of driving on the right. You just drive on the right side of the road or you go to jail. Like, that is the way it goes. The same reason we can't have an organized left, the hyper-individualism in America. Well, I mean, like, a lot of the arguments against, like, Graham Plattner, right? Like, they're individualist. I don't want to be associated with the guy who did blah, right? Like, it's not, the movement will be harmed if Susan Collins doesn't win, right? Like, they don't make an argument like, hey, we need Susan Collins to win in order to blah, 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 right? There's also not an acknowledgement of, hey, if Susan Collins, hey, we are intentionally sabotaging this race and in a pro-Israel, we're sabotaging this race for a pro-Israel, anti-Medicare for all, pro-imperialist candidate because we are trying to do X, Y, and Z thing. It's all individual. It's all like, would you support an imperialist? Like, it's all about how you feel about yourself, not about a goal that's the movement is achieving, right? Notice that? Because it is inherently liberal. It's not collective. It's not even an attempt at some sort of like political argument. And it is floating on that sentiment, plus it's a grift. I mean, it's really that simple. Like, Israel is pouring money into fighting Graham Plattner, 300 million. If I'm an anti-Graham Plattner person, I'll get boosted by the algorithm. I am going to grow my channel off of that Zionist money, but I don't want to be called a Zionist. So I'm going to say it's because Graham Plattner is not anti-imperialist enough. But the Zionists don't care. As long as you don't vote and don't support Graham Plattner, they're happy. They don't care why you don't do it, right? They are just happy you're hurting Graham Plattner. Because if you stay home for Graham Plattner because you're a Zionist, or you stay home for Graham Plattner because you think he's not anti-imperialist enough, the Zionists are happy. They don't give a shit. The only thing they're looking for is for Graham Plattner to lose. They don't care why you want him to lose. He loses, they win. Remember, the entire post-90s anti-vax movement was started by a fraudulent doctor trying to sell his own personal vaccine patent to the NHS by discrediting the safe, efficacious MMR vaccine. If you're anti-vax, you're cucked to a British scam artist. Yeah, it's pretty embarrassing.
This morning, Graham Plattner has secured the Democratic nomination in Maine to take on Susan.
And I'm sorry to have these conversations about Graham Plattner, but I gotta discipline my audience, right? Like, I want this to be an audience of politically engaged and aware people. And like, if you're just not for that, if politics is more of like a personal expression for you, the door is that way. And I really don't want to interact with any of the creators you are interested in as well. Like, and it is what it is. It is what it is. I'm going to keep hanging around with Hasan and Caroline and Austin Show and all those other people because they're in my camp on this. Not necessarily like the same harshness against the people that are promoting this scam, but we all agree that Graham Plattner has to win. You know, it is what it is. We all have our criticism. By the way, I'm okay with having intra-left criticism about Graham Plattner and talking about some of the things, like, for example, that black men are not given as much of leeway as white men. I actually think that's a good conversation to have, and I agree completely. But just because Barack Obama would not be allowed to have 3 baby mamas, it doesn't mean we let Trump win, right? Like, and if a black candidate was nominated and he had 3 baby mamas, I would defend him to the death. You know what I mean? Like, my solution to Graham Plattner getting the benefit of the doubt is not to take it away from him and have him be every leftist judged by the bad faith way they treat black men. It's to give black men the right to be redemption too. And if you have an example of me going after a black leftist candidate and not giving him the room to grow, please show me. That would be a sign of me being a hypocrite. I don't believe I've ever done that. Like, if you could give me a time where I did not have the backs of Jamal Bowman or Corey Bush or anybody, let me know. Show me where I'm being a hypocrite. Dr. Campbell is a legit doctor who has a YouTube log before COVID, and his journey with the COVID vax is way more complicated than y'all want to imagine. All you have is character smears. Bro, my wife was finishing her microbiology degree, and I was finishing my evolutionary biology degree when COVID hit. We had professors working directly on developing the vaccines. They are efficacious and safe. You are incorrect and don't know what you're talking about. Of course they are. Of course they're efficacious and safe. You know what's not safe? COVID. You know what hurts you really badly when you get sick with it? COVID. You know what causes permanent damage to your body when you have it? COVID. You know what's really transmissible? COVID.
Collins, there are a lot of Democrats nervous that this hurts their chances to retake the Senate. He might not be the strongest candidate, that if they can't unseat Susan Collins.
Elijah Manley is a solid Black D candidate in Florida. Ooh, I'm aware of him. He's a mutual of mine. He's definitely someone that I'm thinking about helping, but I want to talk to like other people in Florida first. I don't know if he's like, I think he's significantly to my right, but maybe I'm wrong about that. And I don't tend to support any China hawks. For me personally, if someone's a China hawk, I pretty much don't support them like on the stream. It doesn't mean I shit talk them. I just don't support them. So I have to like figure that out. I don't understand he's not the strongest candidate argument because they're lying. Brody D-Tron, they're lying. They want to defeat Graham Plattner. There's different types of people that have Graham Plattner opposition. The first is foreign tankies who are grifting off of American politics, who have they want their American viewers not to be involved in anything to do with the left because of their own interpersonal beef, grifting off of our politics, and are not really interested in any kind of solid international solidarity, and they don't understand America, and they don't really understand the world systems in a deep way, but they understand there's a lot of attention around Graham Plattner. So I just put those people in the camp of grifter. The second is the anti-democratic entryism people. The people that don't want to show that we can make progress by winning primaries and then winning general elections as a Democrat. They have become fixated on the idea that we need to do a dirty break, and they have no ability to read the room, and they have no ability to evaluate their own opinion, right? Like, look at the California governor's race. There were multiple socialist candidates running statewide outside the Democratic Party. How did they do? Did they get control of the narrative? Did they get a lot of votes? Nobody gave a shit. They were irrelevant, and they ultimately made no impact. That's what I don't want the left to be. And I'm not saying that because I hate those people. I'm just saying that strategy was a strategy. It didn't work. Did they change their mind after it didn't work? After the strategy failed, did they go like, why did it fail? What do we need to do differently? No, they are intransigent. That's something that you should notice. If somebody says, let's do something, they do it, it doesn't work, and then they change nothing, then they're not acting in a Marxist way. They're not acting in an empirical way. They're not acting in a scientific way. If you just keep bashing your head against the wall and you never change your strategy and you never evaluate it, then you're not a serious person. So you have the dirty break obsessives. By the way, I am pro dirty break, but I'm a tactical dirty breaker. I want to start a third party when it is tactically advantageous to do so, when it is strategically advantageous to do so. I don't just want to start it. There is a bazillion third parties. Starting another one isn't going to do anything unless we have momentum, national momentum behind it, like they do in the UK. The Green Party was around forever with barely any motion. But then what happened? They purged the Corbynite left out of the Labour Party. And then they became pro-Israel right as Israel did a genocide. So there became a huge coalescing of, and then a populist left leader took over the Green Party, turning away from neoliberal green politics towards populist eco-socialist politics or eco-populist politics. And so you have a confluence of factors where now a third party makes a lot of sense. Charismatic party leader, a break within the center left party that pushed out the left. There's a huge population of homeless political people that now are coalescing. The collapse of the popularity of the center left alternative. Now voting third party makes sense. Do you see how it's conditional though? Do you see how it's contingent on a bunch of other things that happen? If that were to happen in the US, I would support a new party, Workers' Party, Socialist Party, whatever. But we don't have those conditions, so I'm not wasting my time with it, right? Because it's meaningless. It's not going to work. And it's not going to work, not because I'm not yelling that it should work or Hasan is not yelling that it should work, but because the conditions aren't ripe. They are in the UK. They're not here. So I support it in the UK. I support it in France with Mélenchon. I support, you know, do you get it? I support it in Mexico with AMLO and Morena breaking off from what? PRI. It's all conditional, right? I'm ready to support populist and socialist parties when the conditions coalesce around and make it viable, then I'll do it. So that's why what I think about dirty break. It's why you cannot be rigid. It is a thing that you do when the conditions make sense. It's not something that you just pound your head into the wall. That's why like being somewhat knowledgeable about sports can help you understand this. It's like in ice hockey, right? It is 6 players versus 6 players. Now, in most of the game, there is a special position called the goaltender in hockey. The goaltender is a special position that has special rules and special equipment. You get one goaltender on your side. But sometimes, late into the game, last couple minutes of the game, if you're losing by 1, you can switch out your goaltender for an additional skater. You can give up that specialized position in exchange for more offense, right? Because losing by 2 goals is the same thing as losing by 1. So you give up that defensive specialist in favor of another skater to try to press the attack, right? So you have an advantage on the attack. But does that mean you should always have, and it works a lot of the time. It works. Having the extra skater helps you score and tie the game. But would it make sense to not have a goalie for the entire fucking game? No, that would be stupid as fuck. People would be shooting across the ice and scoring all sorts of goals. But under certain conditions, you make that decision. That's the thing with the dirty break. That's the thing with third party. It requires a set of conditions. And then when it's right, then we make the move. We don't have those conditions right now. So we're not doing it. I mean, I don't know what else do you want me to say? I want people to like plan for it and look for it and strategize about it and constantly say like, is this the moment? Is this the moment? I want those people there, but I also don't want them to sabotage our other efforts based on the conditions we have now. That's what I want you to be like. I want you to be a smart, ideologically aware, pragmatic, tactically brilliant person. I don't want you to be a dummy who's bashing their head with a club saying, I have a hammer, everything's a nail, everything's start a new party right now. Sometimes that's the right decision. A lot of the times that's the right decision. But sometimes you need a screwdriver. Burger analogy next, please. I don't know about that. The main thing is that you require politicians in office to do dirty break. You need to have nationally recognizable political figures with a large following who have been wronged in some way. That's what creates the opportunity for a new third party. You have to have somebody that millions of people are ready to go behind that you has articulated some sort of argument about why they've been treated unfairly, the system has betrayed its own norms, or the party's betrayed its own norms, and they have a grievance that people can say, that's why we need a new party. That's why we have to abandon this old party, because it's broken. Now, there's an argument that Bernie Sanders should have done that after 2016, but that didn't happen, and that's 10 years in the past now. Not going to work now. Do you think it would have been wise for Bernie to run as a third party in 2016? I don't know. And the reason why is a lot of normies right now are calling themselves Democratic Socialists. And a lot of the reasons why normie Democrats are like Bernie Sanders is because he didn't do that. The average Democrat likes Bernie Sanders and Kamala Harris. The average Democrat likes AOC and Gavin Newsom. That's the truth. That's a truth nuke. So what does that mean? It means if we could take over the Democratic Party, then those people will love AOC because they're normies. They're normie Democrats. I'm not talking about the normal person. I'm talking about the normal Democrat. Now, we are the ideologically aware. We're only a small percentage of the people in this country, no more than 10%. So the fact that I hate Gavin Newsom and love AOC or like AOC, that makes me weird. I'm unusual. I'm the free radical. I'm the Tea Party or whatever the fuck you want to call it. So when I ideologically go after the centrists, AOC, and she wins, normie Democrats are going to support her. But if she were to leave the Democratic Party and start trashing the Democratic Party, they would hate her because they would see her as harming the fight against Trump. And there's something to say to that. It's not completely incorrect. The reason why we're not winning, the reason why people are voting for these lefties at primaries is because they're fighting Trump harder than the centrists are. We're taking normies who agree with us on a lot of shit, but their number one goal is defeating Trump, and they see Bernie Sanders and AOC is fighting against Trump the hardest, so they're going with them. That is our alternative. They're not as politically engaged and aware as we are. So we are taking consideration of that context, and we're saying, hey, when we're talking to regular people and they say, I want to stop Trump, Bernie Sanders, AOC, Zoran, Chris Rabb, whatever, Summer Lee, they're all fighting against Trump harder than the centrists are. And that's how we get to a majority. And then when we have the majority, we're the vanguard. We're writing the policies. Do you think regular people know what the policies are? You know what regular people think about fucking foreign policy? They don't know what the fuck they're saying. I don't expect them to. We have the power. We're the ideological left. We won. We write the policy. Duh. It's like when they get 500 doctors side pledge saying vaccines are deadly. It's all dead to, some people are going to. Like, that's the kind of reality. And by the way, everything I'm saying here is going to piss off the type of person that I wanted to piss off, which is somebody who doesn't really, they want to think politics is just about ideas. I wish it was. I wish it was. When people attack me, do they talk about my ideas? Serious question. When people come after Mike from PA, are they saying, his policy on Medicare for all, not very good. Mike's policy on going against Israel, I hate that. Have you ever, you know what the people that get mad at me? I'm arrogant. Subjective personal opinion, nothing to do with my politics. They attack my personality. They attack my looks. They attack my race. They attack my whatever. It is my gender. I was cringe. It's never my ideas. Never the points I make. The same thing with Hasan. How often do they actually attack his points? Maybe they'll make a straw man. He's rich. He went to a brothel. He shocked his dog. He's a terrorist supporter, but none of those are actually covers. Those are just signifiers. He's white. That's a funny one. But people call Hasan white. I know they're in some sort of like hyper online bubble. A Muslim immigrant is not white in America. Like, I'm sorry. Maybe in Southern California he has like white passing privilege, but he wouldn't have that in fucking West Virginia. I can tell you, if they were to say Hasan Piker, I don't think you walking around Southern United States, they would go white guy coming in. What does he classify? Well, in America, MENA immigrants have traditionally been considered white because they're such small in number. Like on the survey, racial surveys, like MENA immigrants, Lebanese and things like that, Turks, are very low, small in number. So they haven't needed to be racially otherized until 2001. And then we did a racial otherizing using Muslim. So people don't really recognize them as like a race. They otherize them based on their religion. Sort of like how they do it for Hispanics. A lot of Hispanics are white, but they get otherized by their culture. and their language. So it's sort of like racial, but it's not technically racial. It's an otherizing based on a culture or religion, right? Like a Hispanic person is probably a white Catholic. The average Hispanic person in America is a white Catholic, but they don't talk about that. They talk about their Spanishness or their Mexicanness or their Latinness. You know, they're speaking a different language. They're listening to different music. They have slightly different cultural and culinary, folk ways. And where are the Catholics immigrating to? They're not immigrating to Boston. They're immigrating to the Deep South, which is overwhelmingly anti-Catholic. You know, they have evangelical Protestantism, which is anti-Catholic religion. The Ku Klux Klan is anti-Catholic. So there's more of a, if you had Mexicans moving mostly to Boston, they probably would be easier to integrate because of the Catholic. Like Italians got integrated relatively quickly because it's all Catholics up there. And the type of Protestant that exists up in, say, like Pennsylvania is Moravian or Quaker or, Presbyterian. Like they're, what was Hillary Clinton's religion? Why am I blanking? How can I not remember? It's a mainline Protestant. Methodist. Thank you, Blue Mage Paladin. Thank you. Methodist. Hassan said it best. I'm white at TSA until they see my name. Exactly. I'm saying all this shit because, like, obviously I'm a white man. I don't think anybody is confused about that, right? Bernie Sanders is a white man. John Fain is a white man. There's a lot of friction in the fact that I've got male privilege and I've got white privilege. Notice that a lot of people that fixate on Graham Plattner are men. You ever hear them talking about how they have masculine privilege and we need to advance the interests of women, that women should talk more? Most of the time when, it is to say that I should talk more, I should get more attention, I should be center of the conversation. I don't think I should be center of the conversation. I'm just part of it. I already, I have my platform and I use it. Of course it's going to have a white man at the center. It's my platform. He's claiming that he isn't really progressive with his economic policy. One of the things about politics is there's a lot of different ways you can talk about it. And being a wonk is not really where most people are, right? A lot of people have, they identify themselves as leftist. So whatever they think is what they think leftism is. Like they'll say like, oh, I'm a left winger. So what I intuit about economic policy is what makes someone left. It's not, though.
They'll never take back the Senate. But there might be other paths for Democrats. CNN chief data analyst Harry Enton is here. Remember, Democrats need to win a total of 4 seats and lose none. What are the polls showing right now?
Yeah, okay.
You'll hear Mike go back and forth on how he's above id poll, then later use it to his advantage. I'm just pointing out that if you're going to be the id poll king, you should probably have a queen that you're advancing, right? Or does misogyny not matter? The oldest oppression is gender oppression. Thousands of years before racial oppression was invented, gender oppression was happening. It is the one that is not even, there is like, what are we saying? All other forms of oppression are modeled on gender oppression. There was actually one of the things that was really interesting with, I would love to do a deep dive into this one day, but David Graeber, in his book on, I think it was on debt, he talks about how like wages themselves, it really goes back to like female slaves being rented out. Like wages themselves were modeled after like early forms of prostitution and degradation of women and marriage.
Okay, so that is the mathematical equation, right? They need a net one.
David Graeber's book, David Graeber. My favorite anarchist book is called Debt, the First 5,000 Years. But that's a tome, okay? Just be prepared.
1, 2, 3, 4 seats. That is what they need tonight. And I think that there is this idea out there that if Graham Plattner doesn't win in Maine, then it screws the Democrats. That is not true at all. Yes,
false. Yes, it is. There's no way that the Democrats win the Senate without Maine. They would have to run the table in like 3 red states that they're heavily favored against. It's like, it'd be like a 2% or maybe like 5% chance. There's no fucking way they're going to, but if they win Maine, their odds of like running the table go up dramatically.
It may make it more difficult, but they have a real path even without winning in Maine. What are we talking about?
Okay,
well,
the idea of having a path versus like, this is where you're supposed to be a numbers guy. You're supposed to be a numbers guy, but what you're actually saying is dumb as fuck.
We just take a look at some polling in some key states, right? Some state polling in GOP-held seats. These are states that Donald Trump won by double digits. But look at this. The Democrats in the average of polls are actually slightly ahead. Sherrod Brown in Ohio.
What are the average of polls for Graham Plattner? What are the average of polls for Graham Plattner? What's the average of polls for Graham Plattner?
He's up by 3 points. He's, of course, the former senator, lost his seat back in 2024. How about in Texas, which has not elected a Democrat to the United States Senate since 1988? What do we see here? We see James Tallarico. Again, a small lead, well within the margin of error, but in the average poll, he's up 3 points. So in 2 states, we have polling out in the last few weeks, last few months, when you average it all together, where you actually have Democrats ahead, again, within the margin of error, but up by 3 points in 2 states that Donald Trump won by double digits just 2 years ago.
So this would be 2 Democratic pickups. What are some other opportunities, according to the prediction markets?
Yeah, okay, so we're talking about math here, right? We need a net gain of 4. This is 1, this is 2. How do you add in the other 2? Well, why don't we look at the prediction markets, look at the Kalshi prediction markets. How about chance Democrats win Senate races in Alaska, right? The last time a Democrat won a Senate.
Why are we using prediction markets on the other people? What are the prediction markets saying? What are they saying for Texas? Oh, I guess we're not going to use them for Texas because they have Paxton the favorite. So I guess we're switching over to prediction markets now. This is how you could tell it's propaganda. Do you see how they're cherry picking? So like they have a polling average on very strong candidates. I think Sherrod Brown is a very strong candidate for Ohio. I think Tallarico is a strong candidate for Texas, right? But now suddenly we have Kalshi. But he's losing in the Kalshi market. What about Ohio? How's Sherrod Brown in Ohio? Okay, he's winning. Okay, well, he just crossed over. But right now, they have Sherrod leading, at least in this one, he's leading.
Senate race in Alaska was back in 2008, Mark Begich. But Mary Patola, look at this, a 62% chance of winning that race, according to the Kalshi prediction.
I actually think that if I were to bet, I think Alaska has a good shot because Mary is a very good candidate who's managed to, like, convince Alaskans that she's one of them. That's very much a personality win.
Market. How about
Why do you think Brown is a strong candidate for Ohio when he already lost to Moreno, a closeted gay forward-board Republican? Because it's not 2024 anymore, right? Like Trump's not on the ballot, and Sherrod Brown has enough name recognition that like beating him down will be a lot harder. And he's won in, you know, I think he is as good as it's going to get at Ohio. I don't think Ohio has a lot of good candidates.
North Carolina, where I think even the most, let's just say, experts who...
A lot of polling nerds don't understand that the wisdom of crowds was actually based on and how prediction markets don't recreate that. Yeah, it's just the people with the most money. They're the ones who dictate where the number is. It's a sentiment of of people with money. That's how Kalshi works. It's not a wisdom of the crowd. It's the wisdom of the richest in the crowd, which oftentimes gets it wrong on things like elections. Whereas wisdom of the crowd is everybody in the crowd.
Who are the hardest on the Democrats' chances think that...
By the way, chat, do you want to know how to win every single one of those? Guess how many jelly beans or whatever the fuck. You want me to tell you how to win those every time? Average the answers of the crowd. I usually drop the highest and the lowest. I always drop one outlier from the highest to the lowest. I don't do a straight average because typically like the highest and the lowest numbers are really bad. So you could just, and if depending on how bad they are, they could throw off the average quite a bit. So I usually will chop off the outliers and then average the rest. What if the crowd is dumb though? You'll still have a better answer.
Roy Cooper, the former governor, has a real shot of being the first Democrat to win a Senate race in North Carolina since 2008. Roy Cooper with an 86% chance. So this is 3 and this is 4 when you combine it with 1 and 2. And all of a sudden, we ask the question, can Democrats get to a net gain of 4 Senate seats without Maine? Well, the answer is absolutely yes.
That's if they don't lose any of their own seats, which isn't a guarantee, by the way. There's not a guarantee, but we'll leave that aside.
They also have to win Michigan, which is an open seat.
Okay, so you just identified 4 races.
And defend Georgia.
Are there others? I mean, how many places is there, say, a puncher's chance for Democrats?
Yeah, okay. So we talked about 1, we spoke about 2, we spoke about 3, we spoke about 4. That's the net gain of 4. But if we widen out the map, right, a puncher's chance, at least a 20% chance that the Kalshi prediction markets, people putting their money where their mouth is, in terms of Democrats winning, at least a 20% chance. Look at this. There are 7 GOP-held seats. So the map is actually really wide this year. It is widened out. which is not a big surprise when the President of the United States has an approval.
Yes, it's widened, but Maine is the top one to flip. So anybody telling you to give up Maine, that's like the one that they have the best chance of flipping. That will significantly hamper the Democrats taking power if they don't flip Maine. So anybody telling you to like not support Graham Plattner is what they're really doing is they're helping the GOP in a very significant way.
If he's lucky, averaging about 40%. If you look at most of the polls, it's under 40%. Bottom line is map is wide. Democrats have a path without Maine. Yes, Maine helps them, but they have a clear path.
Now, I don't know about you guys, but I go by Kalshi, and Kalshi says Graham Plattner is going to win. And the only reason we had this dip is because of these fake scandals, which, by the way, when the polling, there's not a lot of new polling that's come out since the scandals. These scandals are not going to, they're not going to hold up. It's going to return to the mean. And I told people, by the way, when the scandals came out, I told people, cheap Plattner shares. When they dived, I said cheap Plattner shares. So I guess we'll see.
Without it.
And it's much wider than it is today than it was 6 months ago. People like us talking about this, we're talking in a way that, oh, Democrats don't have a real shot. That shot has changed substantially.
It turns out a President south of 40% is approval widens the map for the opposition party.
All right, Harry, and thank you very much.
Thank you, my friend.
People are so focused on the candidates here and maybe not on the broader fundamentals, which is why you have the Republican Senate Committee saying, hey, wait a second here, be careful. Be careful getting too excited, Republicans, that Graham Plattner got the nomination.
Susan Collins always has a tough race. I mean, that has been true, for many cycles at this point. But as long as Graham Plattner is talking about Graham Plattner and not about Susan Collins, that is problematic. The NRSC is right to point out that the economy is going to be a headwind. And not to mention, Republicans have another thing that's kind of pushing against them, and that's the president. Usually this messaging is coming from the White House in normal times or far from normal times. So they're not only having to contend with Democrats hitting them on this, they have a president who is doing unhelpful things like like continuing this Iran war with no end in sight. So this truly, this is going to be a tough environment for Republicans, and they are acknowledging that in Maine and around the country.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you say that, Jackie, and Jeff, you weigh in here because, again, the president's got to wage this war the way he's going to wage this war. And in theory, you want to keep political considerations away from it. But the way that it is happening right now, I don't get the sense that Republicans running for re-election are happy. And it's just day after day, and it's getting much later in the cycle. And you were out there with the president. You just don't get any signs that this is something that they are going to pivot from.
Look, I mean, wars are obviously more difficult to end than they are to begin. We've talked about that so many times over the years, but it's apt in this case right here. And of course, you want to keep the politics out of it, but it is all one a piece of the same challenge for Republicans here. Now, Democrats have enough challenges of their own. There's no doubt about it. The party is still defining itself. It's still an uphill challenge to win control of the Senate. There's no question. Even in this environment, Democrats have to perform nearly flawlessly to do that. And that is unlikely in this era. I mean, one race is likely to fall apart or something unknown will happen. But we do know one thing. The midterm elections are never friendly to the president's party, particularly with these headwinds here. And the fact that what is happening at the White House, there's much more time being spent talking about renovations and things. I was also struck by that, listening to the president as he was speaking. A lot of silence from Wisconsin farmers as he was talking about the ballroom and the other renovations he's been doing in Washington. It's not their chief priority. It may be his.
Jackie, just very quickly, Graham Plattner was out speaking this morning. Arlette played some of it earlier today. In a sense that he's talking in a way that would alleviate the concerns of Maine voters or maybe national Democrats?
We'll have to see, John. You didn't see a rousing statement from Democrats last night. Janet Mills didn't even mention him in her statement, which was very noteworthy. It did, but when you do
again, look at the reason why, and again, the centrists are not stupid, right? Like if Graham Plattner wins, he'll be extremely popular. He'll be another Bernie. The reality is that if Graham Plattner wins, he's going to keep his promises. He's going to get super popular. He's going to build a network of supporters in his state, and he's going to become like Bernie, and he's going to win the next vote by 65%. And Maine itself might permanently go to the left, like Vermont did. Vermont was such a Republican stalwart state before Bernie Sanders, it voted against FDR. It's like Vermont used to be, I mean, Bernie Sanders flipped the congressional seat from a Republican to him. He also was running against a Democrat at the same, like, that what will happen. That's what will happen is Graham Plattner will push Maine permanently to the left and it'll become Vermont too. And that's what the centrists don't want to happen. Like, that is the whole point is if he loses, well then, okay, yeah, well, they can run again in 6 years. Susan Collins will probably die because she's old as fuck and they'll get another chance at it. For them, they don't care about power. It's for them, it's about making money through politics, which is the same thing as all the anti-Graham Plattner thing. People have one thing in common. How do I make money from politics? Not how do I advance an agenda and get it passed, right? They're not ideologically consistent. They don't give a shit, right? And so that's what it's about. That's what it's about. How do I make money off this shit? And, you know, listen, if you could watch this shit and not recognize what's going on or you don't care, you're fucking stupid.
At the margins, he did manage to consolidate many Democrats, but I mean, as it was said earlier, those independent women in Maine, those are going to be the ones that he's going to need on his side if he wants to win in November.
Jackie Kucinich, Jeff Zeleny, great to see you both this morning with so much developing news.
Last night in Maine, Graham Plattner, as you well know, won the primary to become Democrats' pick to take on Republican Senator Susan Collins this fall. Recently, Plattner has been accused by several former girlfriends of unsettling behavior, including one instance where he was described as physically intimidating. Now, this is something Plattner disputes, but I'm just wondering what you think about what he had to say last night. Let's take a listen.
Redemption is not just some simple or easy destination. It's a journey. I've made mistakes in my life, mistakes that I regret, that I live with, and that I continue to learn from. And I'm still far from perfect. But every day, I wake up and I try to be a little bit better and a little bit kinder than I was the day before.
Now that voters in Maine have selected Plattner despite those controversies, will you endorse him?
Listen, I've said as this controversy came out that, you know, the voters of Maine ought to decide. I am focused. I'm up for re-election this year myself. I'm focused on my own race. I hope the Democrats take back the Senate, and that path probably goes through Maine. But I'm focused on my own race at this point.
Do you think he'll cost Democrats a chance to retake the Senate? Mm-hmm.
I do wish this, that if Mr. Plattner feels that he could, and I've never met him, if he could, you know, disprove some of these accusations, I think that would be important. But I'm not.
How do you disprove some shit that somebody made up from like 15 years ago? How do you disprove that? Like, for example, I could say, Mark Warner molested a child 15 years ago, and he's a pedophile. Can you disprove that? No, I'm not saying that actually happened. It's just a hypothetical. Mark Warner, prove you didn't molest a child 15 years ago. Do you understand that once you start playing that game where you ask people to disprove allegations, that you incentivize more allegations from taking place? Now, I'm not saying that he molested a child 15 years ago, but if I asked him to disprove it, he wouldn't be able to, because that's why we have innocent until proven guilty in this country, because people don't disprove negatives.
Kellyanne Conway's still around.
We're back.
I had no idea. You remember her from the first Trump administration? Then there was that messy breakup with her husband, who was also a conservative commentator at the time, or I should say lawyer.
Who's now a Democrat.
But she's still back out there trying to stay relevant. Here she is on Fox News. Basically, look, they are so desperate. They are so scared of Graham Plattner. It is fascinating to me. And we are seeing this transpartisanship. We are seeing the, what would you call this? You know, the U-shaped theory?
Horseshoe theory, yeah.
The horseshoe theory. This is sort of like the, I don't know what shape it is, but where the moderate Democrats and the right meet is on Graham Plattner, it seems to me.
Yeah, I don't normally cite the New York Times, but they had an interesting piece in 2018 by David Adler. Centrists are the most hostile to democracy, not extremist, which is an interesting read. People might be a little bit provoked by it, but I would go check that out. I think about it quite a lot.
But they are so afraid of Graham.
Hey, they're using all my talking points, chat. They're using all my talking points. I just showed this on my stream.
Plattner, they are desperate to find anything that they can say about him. You know, this is the same thing that with Mamdani. where you have, Jillian Michaels and these other right wingers saying like it's Sharia law in New York City. You can barely go around now in your shorts.
But Mamdani doesn't look like a Fox News viewer.
IDubbbz just released a main channel video. I guess they settled and he had to do another hostage video. Is that what it is?
Right.
Which is
it makes it easy. Exactly.
Here.
And this is what makes them panic a little bit.
He's what Tucker wishes he was.
How are we going to say that like he's a fembot?
Yeah.
But this is the best they came up with in response to his win. Time will tell, but I still find it fascinating that all this stuff came out before the primary when it was clear Mills was not going to win. She didn't even want to, by the end, it didn't even look like she was interested in doing any of this. It's as if the Republicans were hoping maybe we can get them to just not nominate this guy.
Empty the clip now.
In this country of 335 million Americans. Sean, also, what was conspicuous by his absence? Where's his wife? Where's mom? Where's dad? Where are any siblings? Where are any friends? He's got people who are women who are making fools of themselves, to be frank, and you can quote me, ladies, holding up signs knowing about his behavior toward women. That's the one thing we know for sure. He hasn't denied any of it, by the way. When he denies it, he gets caught lying. He's now just apologizing for it. Does he know what a United States senator does? They vote on treaties. They vote on sending people, going to war or not going to war. They vote on appropriations. They have a very important sacrosanct set of duties in this country. Susan Collins is the head of the Appropriations Committee. We're going to go from that to this. And Sean, to your point, I know Mainers consider themselves independent thinkers and all of that. It was Ross Perot's best state. He got 30% in 1992. It was his best state in the whole country. They may be independent, but they're not easily fooled. And they know this guy is a complete fraud. So he won tonight, but he's got a long road ahead of him. And Sean, Ro Khanna was up there, but no one else has really shown up with him in a while. Just the freaks on the margin.
Bernie Sanders,
and by
Pocahontas.
the way, Bernie Sanders, AOC. By the way, they don't have any power. Bernie Sanders is anti-establishment.
Okay. This is just, she's just like so desperate here. So Maine can see right through this, and yet 160,000 of them just voted for him.
They're not easily fooled.
Where is his parents? Where is his kids? He doesn't have kids. Where is his wife? What is going on? Where is Graham Plattner's wife when he's going out to give this speech? Oh.
Please, welcome to the stage, Maine's Democratic nominee for United States Senate, Graham Plattner.
There she is, walking out with him to give the speech that they were running on the thing. I mean, so Maine people see right through this. Mainers can see right through this. Believe me. He just may have won the biggest number of primary votes maybe ever. Is that possible? Pretty darn close, I would imagine. If assuming that there's no other buddy in the with somebody else in the race, but even then, I bet. I don't know what the highest total of Democratic primary votes have been, but they're all Mainers. Except for obviously the buses of undocumented immigrants that were, sent up from Boston, the classic Democratic play. They're nervous about this guy because does she think the Republican voters genuinely care this guy is rude to women or was? She worked for Donald Trump.
But the senators do treaties, Sam.
Republican Mainers don't want a guy who's handled weapons like he has.
He sharpens his axe in front of a TV.
His gun was lying on his bed.
He left his gun around.
He chops wood. He's not vegan. I mean...
And by the way, chat, like this is the type of leftism that we need, right? Like I've had my disagreements with the Majority Report. When I have my disagreements, they have a solid reason for believing what they believe, right? Like I understand why they were saying we have to vote for Kamala Harris to stop Trump. I think that was a totally reasonable position to take because the consequences of Trump's presidency have been disastrous. However, I believe that the left should have influence before we give ourselves up. And unfortunately, Kamala Harris said, fuck you. And because she did that, it's not because I can direct you guys. It's if Hassan and I say vote Kamala Harris, it doesn't mean that you guys will, right? Like for you to vote for her, she had to change. She had to have better policies, which was my point from the beginning. If she wanted to win, she had to break with Biden on Israel. Because she didn't, she lost. And that was my argument. Now, the consequences of that were easy to see. Donald Trump winning is bad. But like Graham Plattner is, like the conversation about Graham Plattner is, imagine that Kamala Harris had said, Israel's committing a genocide, and I'm going to stop funding them if you vote for me. Would you have voted for her? Imagine if Kamala Harris had said, I'm Medicare for all. I'm going to break with the Biden on Israel. I'm going to, make college free, blah, 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 blah. Would you have voted for her? Would you have campaigned for her? The answer is yes. And that's something you should ask everybody who's an anti-Graham Plattner person. Ask them, did you vote for Kamala Harris? If yes, laugh. Because how are you voting for Kamala Harris and being anti-Graham Plattner? That's a fucking joke. And the second thing you should ask them is, if they didn't vote for Kamala, would you have voted for her if she campaigned on Medicare for all? If she said she would have broke from Israel, she was going to take weapons away? If their answer is yes, then they have to support Graham Plattner. If their no is, I don't care what anybody says, I'm never voting for anyone, well, then they're just not serious. Like, it's very clear. Now, Kamala Harris would have had a lot less credibility than Graham Plattner. A lot less. Because she had just spent 4 years supporting fucking Joe Biden. But it still would have been the correct tactical decision to support her to stop Trump and Netanyahu. If she promised to do that, that would have been worth better than nothing.
Where's Susan?
Hassan says Trump has charisma, and I'm like, fuck no. I regret to inform you that you are wrong and Hassan is right, and you don't understand what charisma means. Unfortunately, you are totally wrong and Hassan is totally right. Trump is objectively one of the most charismatic politicians in history, just like Hitler was. There's a reason people talk about the speeches and all that other shit and all the hogs and all the cult members. It's not that charisma doesn't mean good. It means it has the ability to persuade and attract people. Trump objectively has that. Charisma doesn't equal good. Just like persuasive doesn't mean correct. I don't like the way people don't use words without understanding what they mean. And it bothers me. It's my autism. I think the reason why it triggers me so much is because communication is so important. And I try to be precise when I use words so that you get exactly what I mean so that we can communicate better. And then other people have like very fuzzy senses of what words mean that are oftentimes just not even right. And so they use a word and they improperly use it and it fucking sucks. And it makes everyone confused because you're saying something that you don't mean to say. He's not charismatic. He just buys his way through everything.
Collins' parents. Why wasn't she there? Why weren't her parents there? They'd be like, what, 180 years old? Yikes. I don't think the conservatives realize they've completely fucked their ability to whine about the character of any politician for the rest of time. They've spent the last 10 years defending Donald Trump for all his improprieties. We're over it.
I mean, they're doing what liberals tried to do to Trump this entire time. That's what they're trying to do to Plattner, and it's working as well.
Catlek, Kellyanne Conway, former mouthpiece of one Donald John Trump, is saying women are making fools of themselves, supporting Graham despite his alleged behavior toward women.
He said, do you think if the Republicans had them, they would elect him? He said that to Steve Scalise, and Steve Scalise said, absolutely not.
No.
Draw a line.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.
All right, chat. I can't avoid this. I'm going to talk about it. iDubbbz has posted an apology on his main channel. Unfortunately, I have to watch this. I'm not going to ignore it because that would be fucking stupid. It's important that we coordinate our messaging on this. Excuse me. Wait, hold on. Let me pull it up. I thought I had it open. It's apparently on his main channel, apologizing to Ethan. Now, I gotta say this. I don't know if he got a signed agreement from Ethan Klein. If he did not, this is a major mistake, probably one of the worst mistakes he could ever make. So I'm going to go ahead and assume that he got a signed deal from Ethan, because if you did this apology without a signed deal, you literally just gave away whatever amount of money is the violation for copyright. So I hope he got a signed deal. I don't know. Read Anissa's tweet before saying that. It's a Canadian court, so it isn't an admission of guilt. Please do not apply U.S. laws to Canadian courts. Canadian's legal system encourages genuine self-reflection and earnest apologies. Please trust what is being done is what feels right. Ian's apology was not done to avoid the lawsuit. It was done because he felt like it was something he wanted to do for himself. I want to be very nice. I want to be very nice during this situation. I haven't studied Canadian law. I don't know what Canadian law is. So maybe it is significantly different than American. I can tell you in American law, which is built off of British common law, that's the basis of our system, which I believe Canada is also a common law jurisdiction, but maybe not. I don't have any training. Admissions from party opponent are, especially when they're against interest, are overwhelmingly admissible in American court. So now there is certain situations where like apologies are not admissible because they are highly prejudicial. Like, for example, if I get into a car accident with you and I say, "Oh, I'm sorry, what happened? I'm sorry that I hit you." That's not really me admitting to fault. That's just something that I utter in an excited state. That is seen as prejudicial, not probative. But if you sit down and make an apology, like under the advice of counsel, that would overwhelmingly be held as admissible in America. I don't know about Canada, though. Maybe Canada has a special apology carve-out. Somebody could show me that. That would be interesting, because it would be so different. Now, maybe the like defamation decision in Canada like precludes lawsuits. This is the reason behind the apology.
The only time Ian's apologized is after I sent him the cease and desist, and I did not perceive it as genuine, right? And I said, and I still say, that if Ian would issue a genuine apology, I'd probably think about dropping the lawsuit.
Okay, so I would like to tell you something, chat, that this is, I mean, I'm not trying to be mean here, but this is in no way a promise. It's not enforceable. He said he would probably think about it. It does not have any legal weight whatsoever. It does not matter at all. Also, he said that he perceives it to be genuine, so he could just say, I don't perceive that as genuine. So unless I have a signed deal saying I will do this apology and then you release all claims, I would never in a million years do this. So maybe they're doing it and maybe they have that. I can't judge them, but here's the relevant apology act in Alberta. Okay, I see they have an apology act in Canada. I'm looking at the apology act. Interesting. For the apology thing in the US or Canada court, couldn't Ethan just sue again in American court and use the apology more effectively at a US lawsuit? Yes, absolutely. Unless there is a decision made in a Canadian court, in which case finding that and it was dismissed with prejudice, you might be able to use estoppel, maybe under the concept of comedy, CIMITY, but I doubt it. I mean, that's like a definite maybe. That's a definite maybe. I would never ever advise you to do something like this without a ironclad agreement to drop claims. So, you know, if you're relying on Ethan Klein's like morality or sense of justice or fairness, you're a fucking dumbass. Now, I'm not saying that they did that, but is this legal advice? I'm not your attorney and I'm nobody's attorney, but I'm just saying, for me personally, I would never do anything without an ironclad signed settlement agreement. Unsurprisingly, Ethan Klein's response was, "It doesn't seem genuine, LMAO." Do you have a link of that? If you're a creator out there and you're fighting with Ethan Klein and you want somebody to do a sanity check with, please feel free to reach out. I'll keep everything confidential, and then I will make sure that you get good advice that's actionable. I've helped a number of people in this area. I'm happy to. Not necessarily with Ethan, but in other places. Like, please reach out, please, before you do things. If you're not like being advised by a professional attorney who's on the hook, please, for the love of God, get advice.
I told Ian, you know, the only time Ian's apologized is after I sent him the cease and desist, and I did not perceive it as genuine, right? And I said, and I still say, that if Ian would issue a genuine apology, I'd probably think about dropping the lawsuit. I don't think he's ever genuinely apologized or reckoned with the fact that like what he did was so extraordinarily fucked up. If he did that, I would probably drop the lawsuit. It's really not. It's not.
By the way, the reason why Ethan Klein is saying this is he's started to get pushback from even fence sitters like Moist Critical. Like, that's the only reason he's even saying this, is because he's trying to be like, well, I only want to do this to get an apology.
That's all I ever wanted, honestly. And from the beginning, when he was like friends with Froggy Tonic, who was talking about, I don't remember what, Froggy Tonic is a fucking psychopath. I don't remember all the crazy shit that guy said, but they're friends with him. And I says, how can you be friends with this guy and friends with me? It doesn't make any sense. This guy wants to like murder my children. Or he was engaging with the guy. I don't remember. He's fucking insane. The point is, and he refused to say his friend Froggy Tonic was being an evil scumbag talking about my family. Like, all I ever wanted was a little fucking decency for my buddy, you know?
This is a guy who talks about Trisha and her children nonstop, by the way. Safe and privacy and protection for my family, but invasive, judgmental content 24/7 about yours. That's the Ethan Klein worldview.
So, you know, as traumatic as this lawsuit is for you, I don't want to do it either. Just make a sincere apology, bro. That's it. I'm not looking to destroy their lives or get caught in this like quagmire of a sick effed up lawsuit. I don't want that. I don't want another lawsuit on my shoulders. That's all I want. Just a little like fucking acknowledgement of what you did. And I said that even before the lawsuit. And honestly, the same is true of Noah Sampson. If he just issued like a heartfelt apology, I'd probably consider dropping it. Just acknowledging like what you did and your part in it. But I feel like I've given Ian a very fair out. I just told him even right now on the show, like, let's just do like an apology, a nice sincere one, and then we'll just call it a day.
Yeah, if he doesn't take you up on that, come on now.
One of the problems with good people is naivete. It's actually one of the biggest problems with being on the left in general is the sickly sweet, saccharine naivete and like deer in the headlights, conflict avoidant personalities that take up so much space on the left. And like, again, I like those type of people. They're fucking great. I love them. I want my friend group to be full of those type of people. But when you are dealing with a hostile, conflict focused personality, narcissist, sociopath, you need to be able to recognize that, like, transactional. You need to understand that you can't trust them. You can only engage in transactional and enforced agreements. You cannot trust them to hold up. The moment you are doing shit on spec, the moment you're giving them things hoping you get it back, you're not. Now, maybe Ethan Klein will decide to drop the lawsuit because it was backfiring, and even like, you know, Moist Critical was getting pressured into saying something, right? In which case, I'm happy. I don't want Ian to get sued, but if somebody is suing me with a lawsuit, I don't talk to them except through my own lawyer, because the lawsuit is filed. You are going to court. You can do all this other shit, but the system is going to keep cranking forward. The days are going to keep ticking until your lawyer talks to their lawyer and says, if you do this, I'll do that. It's nothing. It's just an open promise. It means nothing. So if you're being sued, don't do anything relating to the other party unless it's through your own attorney. This is basic. This isn't even legal advice. This is life advice. And, you know, I hope, you know, I don't know everything. I really don't know everything. So maybe something is happening behind the scenes that, you know, maybe this came through their lawyer and they agreed to, like, hey, if you do an apology, we'll withdraw the lawsuits, and they signed a settlement agreement to withdraw claims with prejudice, you know, both in America and in Canada, and everything was, you know, or all over the world or whatever. And I'm just not seeing it, right? Like, but I gotta tell you, you can't think that Ethan Klein is good faith at this point. So I hope that didn't happen.
It's not much to ask, is it? I say the same with Noah Sampson, but I don't think Noah's going to do it.
So you are saying the same, or you're not saying
No,
the
I
same?
said if Noah issues me a sincere apology, I'll drop it.
Big of you.
I know, I'm big. People don't listen. People don't want to know that about me. Everyone wants to think I'm petty, but I'm...
By the way, Noah Sampson raised $200,000 to fight him in the lawsuit. Noah Sampson, don't drop shit. Take him to the fucking Supreme Court if you have to.
Huge.
They just need to say you're funny. That's it.
That'd be a great thing to include in the apology.
Do you try being funny? All right, so let's go ahead and watch this. That was the I guess. I mean, again, I don't want to say anything other than I guess that's what they're responding to. Here was the old apology that Ethan said is not sincere.
A good time for me to explain to you guys why I haven't had Scorched Legume on in a while. Scorched Legume was kind of like a way for me to like get involved in the slop. That to be honest, I don't like being. I've said kind of all I wanted to say with the content comp. That's usually my strategy. Is like, this is my opinion. Take it or leave it. I would do a follow-up video, but generally I want to fucking move on, live my life. With having the Scorched Legume on, I've been indulging the dark side a little too much. I have my own principles, my own values, and I'm like, it allowed me to roll around in the pig shit a little bit more. And there's aspects of that I like, but it's not really like, it doesn't super align with my principles. I think one of the things that sort of woke me up a little bit is like, okay, wait a minute. I need to take a step back. It's the destiny thing about Ethan and his kids. That was one of those where I was like, oh man, I think I stepped too far out with it. Where it's like, we know the reason that I showed you guys the comment about Ethan and his kids. It's because it's like Destiny's he's a piece of shit, and he has bad intention, but he's going easy on this guy. Not going easy on Denims, Frogan, Casey Tron, Noah, many others, right? And that was my reason for showing it. But I was like, after reflecting a little bit more, I'm like, ugh, I do not want to roll around this pig shit. It's not within my principles to put that online. I don't want to spread that because it's just negative and it's not true. I don't believe it. It didn't feel right. So that's why I'm like, trying to take a step back from the Scorched Legume stuff and not roll around in the pig shit. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry to Ethan and Ethan's family for putting that nasty Destiny comment out there. I felt like it was an okay thing to do based on the point I was making, but gross shit shouldn't be. It's hard, man. It's hard because they fucking chat shit all the time, and it's like, oh, how do I engage? Well, I have to be nasty back. It's tough. From what I've seen, it seems like their podcast has slowed down with the specific harassment, publicized harassment, intentional harassment against Anissa and I. I guess what they do in their free time is up to them, but I need to move on. I need to do other shit. I understand how hard it is to get attention online when you're not relying on kind of the easy shit. And the easy shit is like rolling around in drama.
Okay, apparently that wasn't enough of an apology to me. That seems like it was a very sincere apology to me, but apparently Ethan didn't think that was good enough, so they tried again, I guess.
Hello, everyone. I am going to be talking about a very important and heavy topic for me. If you're unfamiliar with the context of any of this, I'll give you a brief rundown, but that is not the main purpose of this video. I do think it's important.
I mean, like, listen, like, apologies are rough. Listen, I'm not trying to, I feel the same way that I did about Casey Tron. Obviously, Casey Tron would have won her lawsuit, but fighting lawsuits could take hundreds of thousands of dollars. And maybe at the end of it, you get your money back. But if you don't have that ability, like, I could fight a lawsuit to the Supreme Court, right? Like, and my life would largely not change. And then I would get all my money back, right? And to me, that's more important than, because I have that luxury, right? So I would never do something like this. I would rather pay the money than ever apologize to Ethan Klein, right? Like that's, you know what I mean? Like, I'd rather do that, like, for me, because I value that higher, right? But if you're like, if like Casey Tron, has family members, 2 disabled parents who rely on her. So she made the prudent decision to read the fucking hostage video, to take care of her family. And everybody recognized that she would have won her case, but she decided to take the cheaper way out to just end the suffering and risk to her family. She couldn't lay out that money. And that's why Ethan Klein did the lawsuit, right? And nobody thinks that she's actually guilty of doing anything wrong to Ethan Klein, including violating his copyright. No one actually thinks that. They recognize that she did what she did to reduce the risk to her family. Completely on it. Completely reasonable.
Important to share a little bit of my side of the story, but I don't want to take away from the purpose of this video, and that is to apologize to Ethan Klein and his family, especially his kids. Basically, Ethan is suing me for having rebroadcasted a statement made by Destiny on my stream. I did display the very disgusting comment for 40 minutes, and
thanks.
It was wrong. It was a comment from Destiny, and I even said that I don't agree with it, but it sort of highlights how I knew that it was a wrong thing to put out there into the universe and show people. Regardless of the point I was making, it was wrong. I was angry, and I was like, how do I get this guy to, one, not clip me, not mock me and harass me on his live stream, and 2, this guy's a fucking bully. I'm angry. I'm angry that this multimillionaire is silencing people and suing people who have a much smaller audience than he does, and can barely defend themselves, have an impact, and without checking in with myself of whether or not that was a right or wrong thing to do. I justified it in my head at the time. I was like, okay, well, it's not my words, and it's actually said by a really bad guy, Destiny. Not a fan of that guy. It's very clear that it was never the right thing to do. It was a comment about Ethan and his children, and it was disgusting. I said at the time in the stream that I don't agree with it, but still sharing it and broadcasting it to people for 40 minutes, that was an irresponsible and reckless thing to do, especially for parents. Like, there are many parents with kids out there who do not want to see that shit, and it's painful. And I'm sure it was extremely painful for Ethan and Hila to read that shit and have it pop up again and again and again. And just because it's coming from a piece of shit guy, and I'm showing it to people like, look what this piece of shit said, it's wrong. It's wrong to do. And I didn't come to this overnight, right? Like, to be frank, I'm angry. I do not like Ethan. I think he's doing a lot of damage to people online. And it changed the way that I was thinking about it. I didn't think about it. I didn't ground myself. I didn't think about, who is actually being affected in this instant.
I just don't understand the point of this, man. I don't understand the point. I really, I don't get the point of it. He's not going to drop the lawsuits. I don't even know why you would give him the idea that you're apologizing to him. You didn't say what Destiny said. I get that you're trying to show how Ethan Klein is not legitimate. He's not. He's not going to drop this because he's a Zionist and you're not. He's attacking you for being an anti-Zionist, for standing against the genocide. His wife just traveled and did a vacation to Israel like a month ago. They are Zionists deep down. They approve of what's happening in Gaza. That's why they just are focused on trying to destroy you. Or at least if they don't approve of it, and this is my opinion, does it bother them enough to not travel there? Right? Like, if I would have traveled to visit a country that was doing a genocide, and that's the thing. They're not, unless you capitulate completely and fully, they're not going to drop it off of this, man. The reason why he's not saying anything about Destiny, not suing Destiny, is because Destiny has enough of a dedicated fan base, which Ethan Klein relies on to go after Hassan. That's why. Dan Saltzman is a sponsor of Ethan's stream, so they can go after Hassan together. Destiny could say whatever the fuck he wants about Ethan Klein, and Ethan Klein will take it because he needs Destiny, right? He needs Destiny. He needs Destiny's bot army, and he needs Destiny's dedicated 500 cult members in order to process his fight against Hasan and Hasan's friends. You pointed that out. Ethan Klein doesn't even deny it. You know, like, you didn't defame Ethan. You didn't say it was true. You said what you said was true, which is Ethan Klein is not suing Destiny over this comment, but he's suing other people. That's the truth. That is the truth. Ethan Klein is suing pro-Palestinian creators for stuff they said that is not defamatory. He's abusing the copyright system to sue pro-Palestine creators who he thinks won't have the money to fight back. That's what he's doing, man. He picked you because he thinks you're broke. He's not going to stop.
And Ethan's family and his kids are being affected. You know, I just because I don't like Ethan, I think it's wrong to find an attack vector that is his kids. It's
okay. You're not attacking him for like I get that he's doing an apology because maybe he feels bad, but you weren't doing an attack vector on Ethan Klein's kids. You weren't. You were showing his hypocrisy. He doesn't care about defamation. He doesn't care about copyright. He cares about attacking the enemies of Israel and the friends of Hasan Piker. That's what it's about. It's not about, no one was legitimately thinking that you were saying that. You were saying, notice how he doesn't care about defamation when it comes from a pro-Israeli source. Notice how he doesn't give a shit about defamation when it comes from Destiny. And Destiny fucking giggled when he reacted to Ethan Klein talking about it because he knows it's true. Does anybody have a link to that? Someone find me a link of Destiny reacting to Ethan saying they didn't have anything to sue Destiny about. I don't think this constitutes an admission of guilt at all, by the way. Looking at this apology, even in American courts, I don't think this doesn't admit anything. So just to clear that up, this doesn't admit anything. I also don't think it's going to be enough to make Ethan drop. You sure? Yes. Because defamation requires an averment of fact. And iDubbbz is never saying, I was saying that you molest your kids and I was sorry about that. He never said that. So what's the defamation? The defamation is what? That Ethan Klein is not suing Destiny? You could take judicial notice. That's just a fact. Ethan Klein is not suing Destiny for defamation. Truth is the ultimate defense to defamation. There is no case here.
It's foul. It's not okay. And I think it was wrong for me to use the Destiny screenshot as a cudgel to make my point. I didn't need to use the Destiny screenshot to make my point. There's a million other ways I could have done it, but I didn't. And I regret that I didn't. And I regret that I ever put that screenshot on my live stream. You know, that's the main reason why I feel like I do need, for myself, for my soul, to own up to this and acknowledge that I went too far. It wasn't okay. Ethan and Hila and their family do not deserve that. At the end of the day, whatever happens with the lawsuit is what it is. For myself, I needed to make it known on the internet that what I did was wrong, and I don't want to be that person. I don't want to behave that way. I want to make content that I'm proud of. I don't want to give in to a harassment back and forth online. I want to put my energy into making content that I can be proud of and that I'm not going to be ashamed of because I lost the plot. I want to stay focused. I want to check in with myself and know what it is I want to be and what I want to do and what message I want to spread. And this isn't a message I want to spread. So I'm sorry to Ethan and Hila and your family. You guys didn't deserve that. I'm going to think about all of this a lot more, I'm sure. But for now, I really do want to just get back to making the content that I want to make. Having said all that, I wish everyone the best. I genuinely want to see a better world, and I do not want to be a contributor to what makes it terrible. So long. Bye-bye.
I think the main thing for me that is, one, I don't think Ethan Klein is going to accept this as a legitimate apology, number one. So I don't think that's going to work. As far as like strategically and tactically, like in the communicate, like how did they react? Should have done the video at a Dragon VTuber model? Another hostage video courtesy of Ethan's West Bank lawyer. Ian, you do not negotiate with terrorists. Last time I was this early, iDubbbz and Ethan were still friends. Recession indicator. Ethan doesn't deserve an apology. He's insufferable. Crazy how much maturity you've shown in response to relentless immaturity by others on this platform. Best of luck with the lawsuit. iDubbbz is the bigger person in every imaginable way. Love you, brother, but I'm afraid this may be for nothing knowing him. That said, glad you continue to do whatever makes you feel right within. Ian has unlocked ability, empathy. Giving the gaslighters and the bullies what they want, this would be admirable if it wasn't so apparent that H3 are bad faith actors. You know, there's a really funny watermark he could have put on this video. So in general, I would say that, like, strategically, I feel like the situation is, I think it's maybe, I mean, maybe, I'm not a PR expert. I don't know if you guys noticed. I'm not a PR expert, but I would say that I think that in the grand scheme of things, people are already turning against Ethan. Now that, like, Donald Trump is in office and he's a super Zionist and everybody that's under the age of 50 is turning against Israel, even in the conservative spaces, they don't want to be seen aligning with Ethan Klein. So the only people that are really aligning with Ethan now are the Hasan obsessives, the people that obsess incessantly over Hasan parasocially. Even, like, kind of general right-wingers don't like Ethan Klein. And so it's starting to fall off. So even this, like, shit is going to be received better than I thought. Apparently, Ethan dropped the lawsuit. There is a comment from the official H3H3 username on Ethan's video. I think they were already planning on dropping it after they got pushback from Moist Critical. You're going to have to... I can't find it, man. Hi, Ian. I appreciate the thoughtful apology. It means a lot. I've instructed my attorneys to drop the lawsuits entirely. Again, you know, my general feeling is good for them. Good for them. Good for them. The only reason he's dropping is because he got pushback from Voice Critical. And then we read this. Please trust that what is being done is what feels right. All right. Well, if it works, it works. It works, it works. I'm happy for them. I'm happy for them. I think Ian and Anissa were never really the type of people that wanted to talk about this kind of thing. You know, like, ultimately, like, if you're not really involved with politics, you don't understand that when you're fighting against the forces of evil in the world, they're going to push back, right? Like, a lot of people, they think the world is, like, bad because of a lack of knowledge in the hands of the powerful, when it's the opposite. The world sucks because the powerful know it sucks and they're making money from it. And if you try to fix shit, they will try to destroy you because you're going after their bag. So I think a lot of people, you know, when they're fresh into the politics game, they think that it's just about, like, ideas and failure to empathize and things like that. No, there's a sociopathic, pedophilic sex cult of the Epstein class, and they know that they make money from sweatshops and they love it. And that's how it's been forever and always. The richest of the rich, they know what they're doing to the poor. They're not confused. And, like, if you want my point, if you want my general take on this, like, Destiny saw this shit and he fucking giggled. He fucking giggled. Oh, man, I thought I had it open. Somebody linked it to me and then I lost the link. Fuck!
Is this smoke? I don't know. Does this count as smoke for Destiny?
Why does this have no votes? Why is this downvoted to 0 downvotes? Why does this have no upvotes? Ethan Klein saying he has no legal claim to sue Destiny? Snarkers in the comments, beware. Hosts in Destiny. Get noted? So in other words, a subreddit for, like, what? Brigading the fact-checking systems and Twitter? Hasan has shown Destiny on stream. Will he get banned now? Yes, I believe it was the Finkeldink debate that got him. Hasan claims Destiny and Dance Dog would operate a Discord where they dox him and his family. Gonna need a source for that one, Chief. This guy is anti-snarker, by the way. All right, sorry about that, chat. I just wanted to point out, I went down the rabbit hole because this guy's most active in Destiny, the NFR podcast, live stream fail, r/Virginia, the Babylon Bee subreddit. Wow. He's doing a lot of Pokemon trades. If you want some Pokemon trades, he's the man. DNC Civil War. David Hogg's fellow vice chair warns Democrats he's not being honest with you. We got the DNC's strongest defender. We made it to the mainstream, my DGG-us. They want to say it so fucking bad. Can we donate this to cause anywhere? I am moved by all the solidarity. I will donate money for thousands of gallons of kerosene for these brave protesters. This is what this guy likes. for the Gaza Solidarity Encampment to fight against the genocide. I wonder what this guy thinks about Plattner. He doesn't think anything about shit. This guy is a Destiny imp. He just, whatever Destiny thinks, that's what he believes. In between his Pokemon games. Plattner, LOL, Platinum Plattner is real. No one gives a shit about the scandals. There's no need to react like panic chicken every time something unsavory comes out about a Dem. Republicans have set the standards, and voters are finally understanding what that means. The only way these fake scandals can affect Dem candidates is if Dem leadership choose to do the sabotage themselves instead of letting the Republicans' efforts fail on their own. Seriously, Republicans are trying to sink Plattner before the end of the primary. That should tell you all you need to know about who they see as a threat. I hope we don't get a Fetterman 2.0, man. Fetterman is the closest thing to Destiny in all of politics. Anti-lefty, pro-Israel, votes for the right on economic issues. Like, he's literally Destiny. Like, what's the difference between Fetterman and Destiny on any major issue? He's just unpopular because he's like that. I mean, it's so funny how even Destiny fans can see the reality. Jesus. Literally zero shot. All of his history is online. At no point does he even suggest he has right-wing sympathies. Fetterman broke because supporting Israel always was a big part of who he is. Lefties attacked him because of it after having biggest supporters. He could not handle the whiplash, and since the GOP launched an enormous charm offensive, he slowly got closer to them. This guy is correct. Now notice this guy is a Destiny fan, but when his analysis is right, I'll tell you his analysis is right because I'm not a hack. That's exactly what happened. John Fetterman ran on the left as a progressive, but Palestine. But Palestine was very low salience, and he kind of ran as a J Streeter. People thought that he may not be anti-Zionist, but they thought he would be anti-Netanyahu. Like, Fetterman did not run as a super Zionist. That's just not true. But he did align himself with, like, the progressive, liberal Zionist groups like J Street. But when October 7th happened, he strongly supported Israel, just like J Street did. And so all the liberal Zionists strongly supported Israel, even as Israel was openly being genocidal. And that caused the rupture in the progressive left. Liberal Zionism died out, and it was either anti-Zionism or pro-Israel genocide. That's what happened. There was an event, October 7th, that exposed the contradictions of the two camps. And Fetterman went with Israel. And so he lost all access to progressivism because progressive but Palestine is not a position you can have anymore. It used to be something people held, but now it's not. Now, if you're not, anti-Israel, then you're not left. Oh my God, this guy's botting again. Holy shit. What are you even suggest he has right-wing sympathies? His chest. He got the tattoo covered. He told a credible story about it, and it's been like, it's the same shit. Again, the thing about the tattoo is it doesn't require you to have any analysis. That's why it's so popular, because if you're stupid, you can repeat it. That's why the tattoo idea has infinite legs, because it's dumb. It's like, you know what I mean? Because there's nothing to it. That's why it has infinite legs. It doesn't require you to know anything. It doesn't require you to make any argument. It doesn't require you to have any kind of like reflection. It just says, but he got that bad tattoo though, right? And because Plattner said, yeah, that tattoo was bad. Oh, see, you admit the tattoo was bad, right? But it's not about trying to understand who Plattner is. Okay, did anybody find the Destiny laughing at them thing? I asked. Oh, thank you so much for reposting. Destiny couldn't stop himself from chuckling while reacting to Ethan Klein explain why his master Destiny is in the clear, but Ian isn't.
This heinous accusation with zero
context.
With zero context, I'm going to see him basically making a mockery and putting forth this heinous accusation with zero
context.
With zero context, and I truly do believe that Snark's end by his intention is to cause harm to my family. I mean, there's really no other way. Knowing that CCS came to our house already, and that was one of the big reasons for our initial fallout. That like going on your main platform and broadcasting this on your.
I mean, like, listen. I understand why Destiny's laughing at Ethan because he has him whipped like a dog. You know what I mean? Like, it is kind of funny. It is a little bit funny the way that Ethan Klein is whipped like a dog for Destiny. I mean, and by the way, it might even be the right call for Ethan, right? Like if Ethan tried to fight Destiny, he'd lose, right? Like the little remaining like internet support for Ethan would collapse to zero. His entire support network online is Destiny. If Destiny turned on Ethan Klein, Ethan would have literally no support. Like So, of course, I mean, Ethan is right to bow down like a dog and kiss Destiny's feet, even as Destiny calls him a pedophile and says all sorts of horrible shit about him. Because he relies on Destiny. That's his only path. Hi, Ian. I appreciate the thoughtful apology. It means a lot. I've instructed my attorneys to drop the lawsuit entirely. I'm happy for them. I really am. Did you see the updates on the Destiny lawsuit? I'm glad. I'm glad that happened. iDubbbz being sued was always totally meritless bullshit, and he would have won the case anyway, so I'm glad that it's over. But I would never apologize to Ethan. Like, I would never in a million years apologize to Ethan. I would go to prison rather than apologize to Ethan. I would never apologize to Ethan. There's literally no world where I would ever apologize to Ethan. I am a counsel of record for plaintiff in this action, admitted pro hoc vice. I submit this declaration in support of plaintiff's reply in support of her motion for sanctions under Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 37. I have personal knowledge of the facts stated therein, and if called as a witness, could and would testify competently to them. On June 3rd, 2026, defendant Stephen K. Bunnell II, who streams publicly under the name Destiny, participated in a live stream online conversation with 3 individuals who stream under the names Wick, Aiden Underground, and Stardust. Wick hosted the conversation. During the stream, defendant transmitted to Wick images of defendant's own Discord message thread with the user known as Solo Tiny Leaks. As host, Wick displayed those images on the broadcast for the participants and the viewing public, and defendant directed which images Wick could display. The conversation was broadcast simultaneously by defendant, Wick, and Aiden Underground, each from that person's own vantage point, so that the images of the defendant's thread with Solo are visible in each of their respective recordings. I have personally viewed the following recording of the June 3rd, 2026 live stream. The video recording displays a chat thread between Solo and Destiny in which they are discussing the recent links by Solo. The first timestamp in the displayed chat thread is at 5:07 p.m. and the last timestamp is at 7:19 p.m. with multiple messages in between. There is no date stamp on the threads. However, the content is clear that the communications occurred sometime after the first leaks of November 2024. These displayed chat threads have never been publicly posted prior to this June 3rd, 2026 live stream. Both is a true and accurate screenshot of the recording showing one of the displayed chat threads. Do you plan on just ignoring it all? It seems like working for now, but it might hinder you in the future. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm also not sure the wisest to share how I deal with it with the person trying to maximize the interest on it. To be frank, I could have leaked much worse if I only cared about interest, but leaking the super intimate stuff is cringe. I mean, I feel like that's kind of what got leaked, no? I mean, the images and videos specifically. Oh, Well, I mean, I guess I appreciate that. I think although I had heard people talking about my dick, so who knows, LOL. Are you the guy's dick that Rose sent me that was supposedly her boyfriend? Haha, that's not my penis. No. Good question, though. When's my unbanned from DGG Discord coming down the pipeline? We'll see. Better have me in there on an account you can track than on an alt. The displayed chat threads are directly responsive to plaintiff's first request for production. All documents and or communications you have had with the individual with the screen name Solo Tiny Leaks. Defendant did not produce any of his communications with Solo in discovery in this action, including the ones displayed on that June 3rd, 2026 live stream. Plaintiff's counsel sent a deficiency letter to defendant's counsel regarding defendant's failure to produce, inter alia, the Solo communications. Defendant's letter in response responded in relevant part regarding Bunnell's communication with Solo. Bunnell has no responsive documents in his possession, custody, or control. Solo seemingly deleted his Discord account shortly after leaking Bunnell's private information on Kiwi Farms. The Exhibit A attached here too, a true and correct copy of the November response letter from Andrew Bretler. Defendant's display of these communications on June 3rd demonstrates that the communications exist and remain within his possession and control, directly contradicting Mr. Bretler's November 12th, 2025 letter. At the timestamp, he states the whole cryptographic hash argument is stupid because if I was going to doctor anything, I could just doctor a thing and then give them a hash and it wouldn't prove anything. It's so stupid. These are true and correct quotes from the live stream video. I declare under penalty of perjury under the laws of the United States of America that the foregoing is true and correct. In other words, Destiny, there's now a motion for spoliation and failure to reply to discovery, which can cause evidence to be believed in a light most favorable to the plaintiff. If the judge finds that you destroyed evidence, then he's supposed to believe the evidence would have proved what you decided to destroy. And then on top of it, you're supposed to get sanctions. Destiny was supposed to hand over all logs during discovery. Turns out he still had some logs that he never turned over because he was showing them on a live stream. This will be used against him for the spoliation motion. And ladies and gentlemen, this is why when you're being sued, you don't talk about the lawsuit that's happening, because you might accidentally show proof to the opposite. Amazing. Truly an amazing situation. All right, chat. I wanted to talk to you guys about something a little bit more important than all of this. I'm glad that Ethan is dropping the lawsuit against Ian after he got minor backlash for it from the centrist YouTubers are starting to turn against Ethan on these lawsuits. So he dropped his Ian lawsuit. This is also why I made fun. By the way, if you want my perspective on Moist Critical, I made a video on Moist Critical, and let me tell you, there is no refuting what I said, and nobody will even try. Nobody will even try. So Denims, and this is part of the thing is, part of the issue that is the reality of Denims won her lawsuit and none of these centrist guys talked about it, but they were happy to promote all sorts of negative bullshit about anybody who stand up to say like Tyler Oliveira. Then there's suddenly a big video about DMCA being the ultimate sign you're bad. He's hoping everyone will ignore his other lawsuits and pretend he's a nice guy now. Not gonna happen. Voice Critical was very unhappy with what you said about him, but he absolutely won't talk about your criticisms beyond reviewing his timeline. Amazing. Yeah, I know. He's mad that I made fun of his videos where I was like, guys, he doesn't have any time. He just needs 9 videos about the Lego saga. He doesn't have any time to review Destiny's lawsuits on fair use. He doesn't have any time. He's offline. You're bad faith? In what way was I bad faith? Here's what I'll say. That was Boy's claim. Oh, yeah. Fair enough. I mean, I wasn't bad faith. I literally talked about on the issues, on the merits. Hurting their fifis is bad faith. Yeah. True. And here's the thing. I have no problem, and I want you guys to understand this. I have no problem with Hasan being excessively charitable to everyone. That's good. Let me be the attack dog. You know, let me be the attack dog. As long as Hasan is saying Mike is good, that's all I want from. He could be endlessly charitable. He could be the wide end of the funnel. As long as he is saying I like Mike, I'll be the attack dog. He could be the endlessly charitable guy. That's good. I'm not going to be mad at Hasan for being charitable. Let him be infinitely charitable if that's what he wants to do. Mike is Hasan's Israel. No. I'm the NKVD. I am the NKVD, not Israel. He's Mr. Centrist. How could he ever be wrong or subject to criticism? He finally got a bit more push back to the fence up his ass. Oh, exactly. All right, chat. Bad faith would be an amazing bad name. No, there's already a podcast, but unfortunately they are incredibly bad faith. They're like actually bad faith, but they're bad faith to what? They spent most of their time being bad faith toward the left. Unfortunately, it's like the thing about Brianna Joy Gray is she's not ideologically aware enough to be a trot. Like that's how I would explain Brianna Joy Gray. Not ideologically aware enough to be a trot. She's like a crypto or a proto trot. She's like finding Trotskyism from first principles. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh shit, chat. I just realized something. We are 4 hours into the stream and I have not chilled. Please consider supporting the stream by subscribing at tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 sub if you have Amazon Prime. You can attach that to your Twitch account. You get 1 free sub a month. That's your Twitch Prime sub. Nobody really gave a shit about the iDubbbz video about Ethan Klein. That's actually kind of surprising to me. Let's cover like actual news regarding fence sitters. Oh, this video looks interesting. I don't know the creator though. So let me check it out. Tier 2 here, best 16 months of my life. Thank you guys for resubbing. I appreciate it. All right, let's talk about the like actual shit that's really going on in the world. The supposed peace deal that is immediately being broken. This one's for real though.
President Donald Trump says an agreement has been reached between the United States and Iran, and that on Friday, Iran will reopen the Strait of Hormuz for shipping, and the U.S. will lift its naval blockade, allowing ships filled with crude oil to pass through. Pakistan's prime minister says the agreement signing will take place Friday in Switzerland. Pakistan has been mediating these discussions. Meanwhile, Vice President J.D. Vance telling Fox News he will attend and that Trump might go as well, as sources tell CNN that the president wanted an agreement before he left overnight for the G7 summit expected to happen this week in France. Iran's deputy foreign minister for legal and international affairs says Iran will begin to enact the deal on Friday. We're covering this story from all angles. For the White House perspective, I want to bring in CNN's Julia Benbrook, who joins us now, along with CNN international diplomatic editor Nick Robertson. Nick, I just want to start with you. How would you characterize the significance of this moment, and what hurdles are there still left to be had here?
Look, I think it was very significant that there was all sides now have said that they've reached this agreement, and they did this today, and not just for President Trump's 80th birthday. There was a real potential for escalation late today. Israel had struck at Hezbollah targets close to Beirut because Hezbollah had struck into Israel. That had happened earlier in the day. The Iranians, it appeared, were preparing to follow through on commitments they'd given to support Hezbollah across what they see as a wide battlefield, and that they potentially were preparing to strike back. So getting this agreement to end the military hostilities is significant to get it done today. They've reached the agreement, but it's not the signing. The signing, everyone has agreed that it's going to come on Friday, this coming Friday. It's going to happen in Switzerland. So that's significant as well. There's going to be technical level talks, preparatory talks, if you will, that will go on through this week. But I think this essence of trying to capture the agreement and not let it fall by the wayside and not let spoilers get in the way of it. And it's significant that we've heard from the Iranian deputy foreign minister as well, sort of going along with these details. But he does say that Iran's commitment to the talks in the future, and this is a sort of language we've heard from Iran in the past, that is dependent on the United States ending the hostilities as they've agreed to do, opening the Strait of Hormuz as they've agreed to do. But the Iranian deputy foreign minister goes on to say, and we want to see our frozen assets, our continued involvement in further talks and negotiations. Of course, these 60.
Today? Well, we're in the middle of our hype train, so if you enjoy the content, please consider supporting it by subscribing. Tier 1, Tier 2, or Tier 3 sub. Get in. Sub right away. I think one of the funniest thing about politics in general is how much of it really is vibe.
Days to talk through the details of the MOU. Very difficult, very tough talks to be had. But the Iranians saying their involvement in that is going to be contingent on getting these frozen assets. And that, as we know, is something that's been a very sensitive point that President Trump has not wanted to get into so far. And of course, we don't have the details of this agreement yet because it's not been made public and it hasn't been signed yet physically. So that's where we're at.
And Julia,
the primers? Thank you, guys.
White House, obviously a major portion of these negotiations, and we had heard in the days leading up to this that there was a projection of maybe there's going to be a break.
I was out here. Did I talk about Hassan in Denver? Not yet, but we definitely should.
We're expecting it this day. We're expecting it another day. What are we hearing from the White House, and how do we expect their posturing either to change or to be moving forward?
Right. Well, we had heard repeatedly from the administration, from President Donald Trump yesterday, that this was expected to be signed on Sunday, also his 80th birthday.
Thank you.
It's Flag Day. It's the day those UFC fights are taking place there on the South Lawn. No doubt a big day for him. But it may not be happening when he had hoped, but this does seem, of course, like a significant step forward now that both sides are saying that there is this agreement in place. And Trump's confirmation that there was an agreement with Iran, it came shortly after Pakistan, a key mediator in all of this, the prime minister took to social media and wrote in part that both...
This is Republican makeup. Am I crazy? This is the essence of Republican makeup. I hate to make
sides.
My grandmother collected dolls, and they were very creepy. And they had all of them had makeup that looked just like this.
Declared the immediate and permanent termination of military operations on all fronts, including Lebanon. The official signing ceremony is expected to take place on Friday, June 19th in Switzerland. And Vice President J.D. Vance, he spoke on Fox News not too long ago, and he said that he does plan to be at that signing, but that the president could be there. Now, Vance also...
Somebody's like, Mike, what's the Republican makeup? Well, we got big pearl earrings, very heavy on blush, really heavy blush, red lip, mascaraed up. It's like, I'm not even saying she's ugly. I'm not saying she's ugly. I'm just saying it's Republican makeup. It's the style. Lot of foundation, heavy brow, She's not blonde, so people can't tell. I mean, this is Republican makeup. Bad tan / bronzer. Yeah, I mean, is it misogynist to me pointing out this is Republican makeup? Maybe. I guess it is. But it's very conservative style makeup.
Outlined some core.
If I understand you correctly, you consider shitty makeup to be Republican. It's not even my argument. Something women say. I'm just repeating smart queens, okay?
Is the way they do their makeup is kind of how I have tried to do my makeup in the past. Why? I've never been taught, and I don't know how to do my makeup, but I'm very comfortable admitting the things that I don't know. I gotta do this quick so I can get back to praying. Yeah, there's too much vibrance to it. I do feel hatred rising. My blush being gone. Who stole it? It must be an immigrant. I'm not embarrassed about anything in my whole freaking life because I'm a child of God. Yeah. Jesus. A gay person must have hexed me. My eyelashes are too small for this because I had breast cancer and they didn't grow back. You know why I got breast cancer? I thought trans people were cool, living their life peacefully, beautifully. And guess what? God gave me breast cancer. So you want to talk about science? If you can't hate yourself, how the hell are you going to hate everyone else? Go big or go home. And I'm not going home because that's for my husband. Pornography. Found this in my craft drawer. Uh-oh. I think maybe I keep the headband on.
Honestly, too subtle. Too subtle.
Eyebrows. I was made to make babies.
She has like a pink lip. No, you gotta go red. You gotta go redder.
Ovaries fall out. How about that? Okay.
There you go.
And I'm fine with it. Did I do it? Look, I have to try.
Okay. It's not even something I came up with.
Points that are going to be within this agreement. He said that one of those is to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, also lift that U.S. blockade.
Like
They're
red
in the
lip
Strait.
is more of a feminist thing. Not super red, but like this. You see what I mean? Like it's not like red. It's not like fire engine red, but it's still, yeah, it's strawberry red. There you go. Thank you. And then the eyebrows. Like, do you guys not see what I was saying? Do you get it now that you saw the TikTok? Like, I was just pointing out, like, damn, this lady has Republican makeup, and people were like, Mike, I've never heard of that in my life. I thought that it was like, that ain't strawberry, but you're 100% right. Okay, I don't know enough about makeup. Do you think I wear makeup? You think I would look like this if I had makeup on? Mike, any quick thoughts on the Malat Hassad rally be canceled this weekend? We'll talk about it after this.
Of Hormuz. He also said that there was a built-in assurance that Iran would never have a nuclear weapon, would never pursue a nuclear weapon. Of course, we've heard that throughout this process, that is Trump's #1 red line. And then that compliance would be central to implementation, that the United States wants to be able to verify that Iran is holding up its end of the bargain. Then I also want to point up a quote from Vance earlier today and read that for you now. In this same interview, he said, "I'm not going to say that everyone is going to sing Kumbaya tomorrow. It's going to take a little bit of time to learn the ways of peace, but I do think we took a major step tonight." Now, there are still questions on exactly what is included in this memorandum, but our understanding is it's going to trigger that 60-day period, lead to more technical talks, and a Trump administration official has told our team that it would include some of those top-line commitments when it comes to Iran's nuclear program. Vance pointing to some of that there as well.
In the world looking on, Nick Robertson, Julia Benbrook, appreciate the reporting. I want to bring in Congressman Adam Smith of Washington. He's the top Democrat on the House Armed Services Committee. And I appreciate
Okay, I'm sorry. These warmonger Democrats. Oh, my God. Do you see what they're saying on MSNBC about the deal?
This temporary deal we've reached, and we don't really know exactly what's in it. My concern is, if you look at the language of the deal on nukes, which Donald Trump said this is why he was fighting the war, it is identical, as in plagiarized, as in lifted straight off of Obama's deal. They used the same words. They lifted it off of the Obama deal and put it on this deal on nukes. So the whole idea that Obama was weak on nukes and he's going to be tougher, if you even read the language of this memorandum of agreement, it's identical. Then you can talk about the okay, well, here's Obama's. Iran affirms that under no circumstances will Iran ever seek, develop, or acquire any nuclear weapons. That's July 14th, 2015. Republicans melted down. Donald Trump said it was the worst plan ever, that Iran was going to get a nuclear weapon because of this deal. And this is what Donald Trump says. Iran cannot develop or purchase a nuclear weapon, and actually, it's actually closer than that. I will get it, but it's the identical language. And then you have Donald Trump saying, "Oh, the strait will be open forever for free." Well, no, that's not what the Iranians are saying. There's a 60-day period, and then they expect to start receiving tolls. Regime change. The president had said earlier that we had regime change. Now he's saying he doesn't care about regime change. This regime tougher than the one before, which was pretty bad. And you can just go down the list. What I'm waiting for, talking about the other shoe to drop, is there going to really be reconstruction money for the Islamic Republic of Iran? It sure sounds like it. What's this sanctions relief look like? Because the Trump team told me that Biden giving sanctions relief to the Iranians was the worst thing he ever did. So again, a lot of confusing things. That I hope we have us a good, solid deal that keeps Iran contained.
So, like, there isn't actually. Has anyone announced a fucking deal? Is there anybody who's announced this fucking deal? Like, is there any evidence about this fucking deal? Like, what is the deal? Is that, like, this is fucking garbage.
Right now, I'm seeing nothing in here, but that would do that. But maybe you can assure me that I haven't read deep enough into the memorandum of understanding.
Okay, just dropped from CBS. U.S.-Iran deal signed by Trump and Iranian negotiator. U.S. officials say the memorandum of understanding outlining the U.S.-Iran deal has been signed electronically by both sides. U.S. officials say a signing ceremony is expected on Friday. Iran's powerful Revolutionary Guard said under the agreement the country will receive half of its roughly $24 billion in long frozen funds before final negotiations begin during a 60-day ceasefire extension. A U.S. official said earlier that Iran will get none of the money until it demonstrates compliance with the deal's terms. This is all stock manipulation. This is literally all stock manipulation. Israeli officials said the country is not bound by the agreement between the U.S. and Iran to end its fight with Hezbollah or pull its force out of Lebanon. President Trump, Pakistan mediators, and Iran have said the deal includes a cessation of hostilities on all fronts, including in Lebanon. The JCPOA was $1.5 billion. The entire Iranian military is about $9 billion a year. So if we give them $12 billion, that is like more than their entire defense budget. We'll have paid for like more than their entire defense budget.
Good transition to the freakout in Israel, because obviously, as you pointed out, Israel and Lebanon still the primary area in which this whole thing could fall apart, and could fall apart very quickly. I actually want to start with B6 here, Bezalel Smotrich coming out.
I don't even know what the fucking deal is. For the love of God. What is the Iran peace deal? I honest to God don't even know what it is. Okay. According to The Guardian, 1. Strait of Hormuz. On Sunday evening, Donald Trump appeared unequivocal about the status of the Strait of Hormuz, declaring, I hereby fully authorize the toll-free opening of the Strait of Hormuz and simultaneously herewith authorize the immediate removal of the United States naval blockade. Ship of the world, start your engines. Let the oil flow. An hour later, the U.S. president said the opening of the key waterway through with a fifth of the world's oil flows was contingent upon the signing of a deal scheduled for Friday and would be for purposes of mine removal. Critically, Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, the peace deal mediator, made no mention of the strait of his opening announcement. Iran's Mihir State News reported that the agreement memorandum of understanding calls for the reopening of the strait within 30 days under Iranian arrangements. Regardless of the uncertainty, oil prices tumbled in the hours following the news, with prices falling to the lowest level since early March. Shortly after the Iran war began, prices plunged despite warnings that it could take months or years to restore Gulf's energy production. Reopening oil and gas sites is a complex process, and some of the region's infrastructure has been damaged by drone attacks. There is also the question of whether shipping companies and insurance will feel the strait is safe enough for passage. Lebanon. Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister Qasim Garibabadi was unequivocal about the scope of Sunday's agreement, saying a permanent and immediate end to the war has been declared on all fronts, including Lebanon. Mediator Sharif, Pakistan's mediator, was clear, saying in a social media post, both sides have declared the immediate and permanent termination of military operations on all fronts, including in Lebanon. But Trump made no mention of Lebanon, focusing almost exclusively on the Strait of Hormuz. We talk a lot about a post-truth world. A lot of the way that we interact relies on good faith, right? Like when you go to the grocery store and you pick up a carton of orange juice and you buy it, it often comes sealed. And on the label, it says the ingredients, you know, water or just, you know, fresh squeezed orange juice, 100%. Maybe there's a little bit of orange, you know, zest or you know, pulp added or whatever the fuck, right? You buy that container, it's cardboard, it's opaque, you don't know what's in there, but you depend upon the idea that what's on the package is going to be a true and fair explanation of the contents. You believe that the contents are going to be wholesome, not contaminated, not polluted, not poisonous, not rotten, right? Like there's an expiration date that's printed on the label. You think I'll be able to drink this orange juice as long as I refrigerate it, and it'll be palatable before the expiration date. There's so many assumptions. You believe so much about this thing that you're not going to be able to see before you hand over your money, right? And then you go home, you crack it open for the first time, and you pour a glass. Imagine what came out of there was sewage. What would that do to society? Imagine what would happen to society is if half the time you tried to buy a product that turned out to be something completely different or even harmful. That's the world we're now living in, that Donald Trump is creating, where we cannot even engage in normal diplomacy because people are not even willing to like say what they mean and mean what they say. It's just a bunch of, they're filling the air with bullshit so that everybody hears what they want to hear, but nobody actually knows what's real. Do you think this is market manipulation to keep SpaceX from crashing for 15 days before it gets added to index funds? I think the markets are in greed. On CNN Money, they have a greed versus fear indicator for the stock market. I think the markets are actually in 100% extreme greed. Look at the market momentum, extreme greed. Some of these things showing extreme fear are talking about the larger problems in the economy. But if you actually look at the market momentum and the stock price, the reason why we're not seeing more highs and lows is because we just came off a gigantic bubble. So you're not going to see fresh highs. But very shortly, this is going to be extreme greed. The reason why this meter is saying fear is because some of this other stuff like volatility, it's spiked high and it's coming down. So all these are going to be shifting into greed. You're requiring, for junk bonds, you're requiring an even higher premium than normal. That's interesting. That means people are getting out of risky bond bets and they're doing what? They're buying stocks. Stock market is going to be returning to extreme greed. This index is going to be becoming more and more greedful. And what does that mean? It means that people they have FOMO right now. When you're thinking about the stock market, it fluctuates between two things, FOMO and fear, right? And when everybody has FOMO, that's when the markets are going to go up fast because everyone's pouring money in because they don't want to miss out on the gains. And so that's the situation we're in. People are not looking at SpaceX and going, let me evaluate this business. They're going like, it's going to go up. I'm going to miss out on 30% of easy money. Oh my God. That's what people are thinking right now. They're not thinking like, I don't think this is a viable business that's actually going to make money in the long term. What's FOMO? Fear of missing out. And honestly, that's been the right call. Since Donald Trump went into office, being FOMO and just buying consistently was the right call because the psychology of the capitalist class right now is we've got infinite money printer going. Asmund Gold thinks Israel should keep bombing Lebanon. I think Israel should keep bombing Lebanon because Lebanon has terrorists in it if they have Hezbollah in it and they're firing rockets into Israel.
Yeah, Juneteenth can be repurposed in May to an actual holiday. Well, Juneteenth is a real holiday. It was meant.
I don't want to give this guy his nickname, and neither should you, chat. But all of us together think about his nickname. All of us think his nickname.
Emancipation Day for the slaves. That's a big deal, man.
Why does he keep wearing the same shirt? Because he doesn't change or shower or bathe. He orders like the crappiest fast food, full sugar sodas. And Asmund Roach, and then he doesn't bathe. And then he just lays down in a dirty bed that has old bedded bedding. And he wakes up, and that's that. That's his entire life. Maybe he plays a video game incompetently, but that's his entire life. So he's wearing that shirt because he wore it a couple weeks ago, and he's still wearing the same shirt.
Like, that's a really big deal. Like, what are you talking about? And it might already be over. Wait. No. Netanyahu informed Trump that Israel will not pull IDF forces from Lebanon and does not consider itself bound by the Lebanon clause in the U.S.-Iran agreement. Okay, you know what? Like, the thing is, this has always been my stance on this. You can never negotiate with these fucks. You just go in there, you bomb the shit out of them, and you leave them. If they want to kill each other afterwards, go ahead, be my guest.
The thing that's funny about Gold, sorry about that, Asmund Gold, is that he is very stupid. And he supports America getting cucked by Israel because he supports Israel. He is a Israel supporter. So Donald Trump getting embarrassed and cucked is funny. The other thing is the world relies on Middle East energy. So when Iran keeps the Strait of Hormuz closed, that hurts the world economy. And the reason why it hasn't hurt the economy more is because Donald Trump has successfully created the impression that peace is imminent. Donald Trump has successfully manipulated the markets into the idea that peace is imminent and the flows are going to restore. That's the reality. That's the world we're living in.
But the amount of, like, why are we trying to micromanage Israel? Yeah, why are we doing this, base, baby? Yeah, I think he should keep bombing them. By the way, I think Israel should keep bombing Lebanon because Lebanon has terrorists in it. They have Hezbollah.
The thing about Israel is they can't keep bombing anywhere without our money. They can't fly planes or drop bombs unless we give them the planes or we give them the bombs. So we have to pay for it out of our own pocket. Israel is not able to have jet fighters without America's help. They're not able to do any of that shit without America. So they rely on America to do those crimes. So if you want to keep paying for it, are you saying we should keep paying for it?
In it, and they, like, again, they're firing rockets into Israel. They are. They're firing rockets into. I hope he kills every single fucking one of the Hezbollah members in Lebanon. Every single fucking one. And only then will the people there have peace. That's good. Yeah, and never negotiate with terrorists.
Well, what Israel is doing is destroying some of the oldest Christian villages in the world. Israeli settlers set Christian village alight and impede firefighters. Across the illegally occupied West Bank, Israeli settlers invade villages, grab land, disrupt livelihoods, and assault Palestinians with impunity, usually with state support. Yesterday evening, this was 5 days ago, we were subjected to yet another attack, one that was complex, alarming, and difficult to comprehend or justify. The events began with a fire being deliberately set across a large area opposite the fuel station. Palestinian firefighting crews were initially prevented from reaching the site due to the absence of the necessary security coordination, allowing the fire to spread and threaten surrounding land and property. In response to this danger, a group of young men from the town volunteered to assist in extinguishing the fire by bringing a water tank into the area. Instead of being allowed to carry out this humanitarian effort, they were surrounded and obstructed by settlers. The situation escalated further when another group of young men was attacked. Several individuals were physically assaulted, 2 vehicles were damaged, and a mobile phone was stolen. Most alarming at all, live gunfire was directed at us on 3 separate occasions during these events. Such actions represent a grave escalation that endangered civilian lives and spread fear among the residents of our community. This is a Christian community. A Christian community that's been here for 2,000 years is being attacked by Israeli settlers. That's what Asmund Gold supports. He wants to see Christian communities destroyed for Israel.
Exactly. Lebanon's a semi-Western country. It is. It's disappointing that they're being taken over by these freaks. So, yeah, that's it. Remember the pager attacks? I do. AIPAC funded. Right. Yeah. And, you know, again, like it's Israel. Israel's so bad. These people are trying to blow you up too, bro. Like, that's it. And we can't have Lebanon looking like Gaza by the end of this, though. That's not my problem. Like, what they do over in the Middle East, like whatever they want to blow up, whatever they don't want to blow up, it's not my fucking problem.
We're paying for it. We're paying for it. Our military is there. We're giving diplomatic cover. We are paying for it. We're sanctioning the International Criminal Court that tries to prosecute the criminals.
I don't care. I just don't want to have any terrorists. That's it. That's the only thing.
If you don't want terrorists, then you stop trying to steal people's land. You stop attacking innocent people.
It affects me as an American. Like there are no terror cells.
It doesn't affect me as an American if an Israeli terrorist, like October 7th didn't affect me as an American. If we're going by that logic, right? Like October 7th happening over there didn't affect me as an American, right? Why do you want us to fund their wars for them? They're not Americans. Why would I care? Isn't that the logic he has?
Middle East. Everything else is secondary to that. So that's the goal. That's what matters.
That's the goal. That's what matters. Israel occupied more Syrian lands after Assad fled, despite no attacks from the Syrian side. Yeah, and he supported that. Again, if you want to understand Asmongold, he doesn't care about that. He cares about might makes right. He thinks that if you're stronger, you should be able to do what you want. In effect, he supports terrorism. As long as the terrorists win, then they deserve to win. That's the way right-wingers think. Everything else is bullshit. And so what Asmongold is really saying is, Hezbollah, show me you're stronger than Israel, and then you'll deserve to live. That's what he thinks.
And expressing his concerns about the deal. He says the agreement with Iran is bad for Israel and for the entire free world, period. The joint campaign had many achievements in weakening Iran. They will not go to waste. We will have to continue the campaign to topple the regime ourselves and in creative ways and ensure that Iran will never have nuclear weapons. None of the candidates who see themselves as fit for the premiership would withstand even 10% of the pressure currently being applied to the Israeli government, especially to the one at its head. In Lebanon, we will be tested. This is our war, our fighters, and the immediate security of our northern residents. I will continue to act so that we continue to stand firm on ours and allow the IDF full freedom of action to continue pushing Hezbollah away. Jeremy, what do you make of those comments? I took particular note of the mention that they would continue to try to topple the Iranian regime in, quote, creative ways.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's clear, and that's been the policy for a long time, but I think they're going to really escalate those efforts. I mean, Crystal, there's something else interesting here, which is that Iranian officials and analysts that I've been talking to, not just government officials, believe that there is going to be another war, and it's going to be between Iran and Israel. And they said that the focus right now is the issue of decoupling. The Israelis and the United States are trying to decouple Hezbollah from Iran. Trump now has gone in a bit of a different direction because of this reported concession to the Iranians. We'll see how that plays out. And they've enlisted the Lebanese government in this parallel so-called peace process, and they're trying to get the Lebanese army to serve as the kind of domestic enforcer of the campaign to break Hezbollah. And that has all kinds of complicated issues attached to it because of the diversity of Lebanon, the way the system is structured, and the popularity of the resistance right now, particularly among the Shia population of Lebanon. From the Iranian position, and I was told this by an Iranian official in addition to Iranian analysts, the Iranians want to try to accentuate the divisions between the United States and Israel on Lebanon. And they have no illusions that Donald Trump has been this immense backer of these genocidal scorched earth wars. They're clear on that. But they also are very savvy students of American politics, and they understand that there's divisions within the Republican Party. They understand that Israel is increasingly becoming a toxic issue on the right in the United States, that it's going to play a role in the midterm elections, that Netanyahu is going to face re-election, and that he's being attacked from the right, saying you didn't finish these wars, that Hamas still is in power in their section of Gaza, that Hezbollah is still killing Israeli soldiers, including with these very cheaply made FPV drones, that the Iranian government is still firmly in place, and there's actually a Khamenei who is the supreme leader of Iran. And so I do think that it's not just the loonies like Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, but I think the mainstream of Israeli political power wants to continue this war against Lebanon. And the wild card here is what happens when it comes up against Trump's public projections. But at the end of the day, no one trusts the Americans. No one trusts Trump. The Iranians are not stupid. In fact, their delegation often is flush with PhDs when ours is flush with last weekend's golf scores.
Right. Let's put B7 up here on the screen. Just to your point, here we have Yair Lapid. A tough morning for it. This guy is the leftist, by the way, of Israel. This morning,
quote unquote.
Israeli citizens are waking up to an agreement between the U.S. and Iran made over Israel's head. In one signature stroke, immense military achievements secured with the courage of our pilots and the blood of our fighters has been erased, while Netanyahu stood on the sidelines, weak, ill, isolated, and powerless. He signs an agreement that funnels billions to the Ayatollah's regime, leaves the nuclear structure intact, preserves the ballistic missile threat as is, throws a lifeline to the murderous regime in Tehran. This is the culmination of long years of failure. Netanyahu is the man who for years sold the public a false image of Mr. Security and in reality became the father of Israel Israel's greatest strategic failure in history. The man who built the notion of Hamas is an asset, who enabled the flow of Qatari money, who abandoned the diplomatic arena, who dismantled Israel's alliances and left it isolated at the moment of truth. Netanyahu is good for Hamas. He is good for Iran. He is good for Hezbollah. He is not good for Israel. The one who promised total victory ends his tenure with Israel's enemies stronger, Israel weaker, and the deterrence built with the blood of our fighters eroding before our nation. I mean, you could have written that from Ben Gvir or Smotrich too, but it does demonstrate, Jeremy, the level of basic, I guess, bipartisan is what you
actually. Smotrich would probably be more to the left than this. Smotrich would probably say that Netanyahu's administration is doing what they can with a limited environment. This is attacking Smotrich from the right.
Call it, you know, with the problem for Bibi Netanyahu inside of Israel at a critical political moment for him. And so
how to the left, yes, that's how crazy right-wing fascist Israel is. The opposition is saying you're not fascist enough to the literal Jewish power party.
Or the Iranians thinking, they can look at Israeli politics the same way any of us can, about the reality of getting 60 days without fire in Lebanon, potentially even fire on Iran.
Yeah, I mean, it's and we've been talking about this on the show and elsewhere before, that it's been really clear over the past few years that it's not, as Bernie Sanders says, the extremist right-wing government of Benjamin Netanyahu. This is at the core of mainstream political life now in Israel. And in some ways, it is reminiscent of the posture of many top Democrats in the United States, where they're sort of egging Trump on, and they're sort of using the taco line, the Trump always chickens out, and they're trying to sort of make it more, make Trump more aggressive, or sort of attack him from the position of you failed to achieve these objectives, and the regime is being left in power. There are ways in which that also is kind of a common dynamic within the institutional Democratic Party, who very much actually wanted a war against Iran, and they were happy to have Trump do it because the odds of it becoming a disaster could be beneficial to the American Democratic Party's political future at the midterm elections. But again, my understanding is that many Iranian officials, many leaders of Hezbollah, do not view this as the potential end of the war. They view it as a phase where the crossroads is going to be how much more deeply does the United States get involved with what is ultimately going to be a war on the part of Iran, Hezbollah, potentially a broader axis of resistance against Israel as the Israelis start to ratchet up their covert operations inside of Iran. Tests are going to be all over the place in the next week or so because the Israelis clearly want to undermine this. Trump apparently told them he's going to stop this. I doubt it. I think it's going to be really tough. And then the ball is in Iran's court. Do we say no nuclear negotiations unless the scorched earth bombing or siege of Lebanon stops? That really, in a lot of ways, is going to be the massive question looming over this for the coming days.
Yeah, as it has been the whole time. Just to give a broader sense of how this is landing with the Israeli public, not just the political class, we can put B3 up on the screen. These were some Telegram comments that were pulled by Middle Eastern analyst Sina Tusi. Among some of the choice quotes here from ordinary Israelis on Telegram: God will curse Trump. The first war in Israel's history that we lost. We have to admit the facts. Iranians taught America a lesson. I think that's probably true. Hopefully in 10 years, we won't be dependent on American idiots. And then to turn to the American domestic political context, because we have plenty of influential pundits in our own country who seem to put the interests of Israel above virtually anything else. One of them being Mark Levin, who's been very influential with the White House. Trump has tweeted out multiple times, hey, you got to watch what this guy Mark Levin is saying because he's right on target. Let's go ahead and take a listen here to B1 and his immediate reaction last night to what we knew of the deal.
And when Israel is forced to defend itself, including preemptively against Hezbollah in Lebanon, and remember, they're not at war with Lebanon. They have a peace deal with Lebanon. They've never been at war with Lebanon. And
so the Lebanese government is nothing more than an American puppet. It doesn't have any legitimacy. It's not a real state. It is the kind of remnants of a colonial imposition by France. And basically the Lebanese constitution doesn't allow like any kind of democratic adjustment. It basically was a forced sectarian constitution where each religious group or ethnic group got their own mandated percentage of the government. and it was anti-democratic. So even if like the population of Christians declines, the Christians still maintain the same amount of seats. So it's a kind of ethnic, anti-democratic system that has totally lost all legitimacy and has collapsed. But the West likes it because we can put our puppets in. So it doesn't even defend its own territorial integrity. Basically, an Israeli puppet regime with no legitimacy whatsoever.
It is said to be in violation
They haven't
of
had a census in 90 years. Exactly.
the deal. We saw this play out earlier, providing the Iranian regime with a strategic opportunity to attack Israel, claiming it's defending its ally, and that Israel violated the deal. What then? Will Israel become a pariah? And will it be admonished? Iran's counting on it, and so is Hezbollah. Hezbollah must not be in the deal. It must not, and that must be very clear. But to me, and at this stage, it's not very clear, despite some of the language that's been put out in anonymous briefings of certain media by administration officials.
Let's also put Lindsey Graham up on the screen because I thought his response was also very interesting. You know, in the American political context, Jeremy, mostly I've seen the neocons sort of reluctant to directly really criticize Trump, especially since the American side has not released all of the details of the deal from their perspective. So in any case, Lindsey Graham here says, I'm pleased to hear the memorandum of understanding with Iran to allow the Strait of Hormuz to open has been agreed to. I'll be watching closely the ensuing negotiations regarding Iran's nuclear program and other matters. I'm somewhat concerned that Iran's view of the agreement seems different than what the American negotiating team is claiming. Under our law, any nuclear deal with Iran will be sent to Congress for review and a vote. So Congress didn't get a say on going to war, but apparently peace Congress has to approve. I look forward to reviewing the final product, and I believe it is imperative that the architect of the deal, Vice President Vance, and his negotiating partners be part of the process in presenting the final deal to Congress. Congratulations to all in getting us to this point. Time will tell. That piece about J.D. Vance to me is very significant because it seems like it's Lindsey Graham trying to position himself to be very critical of the deal without having to criticize Trump directly. He can blame, J.D. Vance, the negotiating team. They screwed this whole thing up. If it was Trump at that negotiating table, man, we had art of the deal and regime change and all the things that we all would have, that, you know, he personally would have wanted.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think, you know, we're looking also at 2028 messaging here, and clearly Lindsey Graham doesn't want J.D. Vance to be the nominee, at least at this point, or the successor to Trump and the MAGA movement. But a couple of interesting details, Crystal. One is on this issue of Iran's ballistic missile program. Trump and others were talking from the beginning that, you know, the Iranian ballistic missile range has to be reduced, that their ballistic missile program has to be eliminated, that their support for their regional allies has to be completely ended, that the nuclear dust is going to be taken by American forces and removed from the country. Now, what are we talking about? Trump is saying, oh, it doesn't actually need to be removed. It can be destroyed in the country. What this is, for people that actually have been following this closely, is Trump is coming around to the position that the Iranians told them was their red line, which is Iran said, we are not going to remove our highly enriched uranium. We are willing to discuss a dilution of it. You know, the Iranians also told me they were willing to put on the table a 10-year moratorium on enriching above 3.6%, that they were willing to dilute any of their enriched uranium that's above 20% back down to civilian levels. They said that they were coming in with a flexibility. It was Trump that laid out all of these things. The regime is going to be overthrown. The people are going to rise up. We're going to get rid of all their ballistic missiles. They're not going to have a drone program anymore. We're going to come in and U.S. soldiers are going to retrieve the nuclear dust. Now what we're talking about is going back to sort of the discussions that were existing as of February 27th, the day before Trump and Netanyahu launched this war. The big scandal here in perpetuity should remain that Donald Trump chose this war, that he did so not only at great economic cost to the world, not only because it humiliated the United States, but also because the deal that he's going to get in the end potentially is going to be worse than the terms the Iranians were putting on the table for the year basically leading up to this war. And really, if we had an actual aggressive Congress where you actually had Republicans willing to take on the president, this is an epic scandal, what has happened, because what we've seen over the past 100 days is a complete and total unnecessary war that was counterproductive, that in the end makes Americans less safe also, because it shows the world that there's this gratuitous violence that the U.S. will just unleash, that Israel seems to be in control of a large portion of our decision making, and that the president of the United States humiliated the highest office in the land and wasn't even able to get a deal that was better than the terms that the other side was putting on the table before you went and launched a 100-day military, economic, and diplomatic war. It's scandalous.
Jeremy,
one last.
Let's just hold that for after the deal's done. Then we can see. Then let's all be honest. After the deal's done, in the interim, he's the greatest president of all.
We can say we're very glad that perhaps potentially there is a deal to end this disaster, but that it's been a disaster. But one last question for you, Jeremy. Why did Iran choose to make Lebanon so central and we hear nothing about Gaza?
Well, I mean, that's a question that many Palestinians have asked me. I also discussed this the other day with HASANBI, who's one of the most well-known Iran analysts. And, you know, the answers that I've been given when I've talked to Iranian officials about this, I just as someone who's really immersed in covering Gaza, I found them to be unsatisfying answers, but I understand them. Iran says that that this is more complicated than Lebanon because the Palestinian factions signed an agreement with Trump and with Israel, that there's a United Nations Security Council resolution that is governing the so-called Board of Peace, that there is a separate track of negotiations that is happening between the Palestinians and the Israelis via the Board of Peace. Yes, the Iranians are watching, and they are extremely opposed to this and say that they're in solidarity with the Palestinians of Gaza, but they're saying that it would require an entire separate diplomatic track, and that they don't have the leverage to also put Gaza and the war under its umbrella. And one Iranian official said to me, so if we were to start doing this, what do we say about illegal settlements? What do we say about the siege and the forced displacement in the occupied West Bank? It's not that we don't want to do this. It's that in order to do that, it requires a whole other front. And what they're saying is, we're going to get to that, but Hezbollah actively entered the war front on March 2nd by attacking Israel in response to the aggression against Iran. And also the myth of Iran being the kind of primary backer of Hamas, it's just false that Iran is somehow some puppet master controlling Hamas. Hamas and Hezbollah have a very different relationship to Iran. I think the Iranians also came to a point where they felt like this was D-Day. And if they didn't draw a red line in defending and having a joint front with Hezbollah and the southern resistance in Lebanon, that they were essentially ceding that territory in perpetuity to the Israelis. The situation with the Palestinians in Gaza is unspeakably horrifying. Just one statistic for you. Israel has killed more Palestinians since the October ceasefire was signed than Israeli civilians that were killed on October 7th. Think about that for a moment. The Israelis have killed more Palestinians, approximately 1,000, in Gaza since the ceasefire was signed last October than civilians who died in Israel in the Hamas-led attacks on October 7th, 2023. When you look at that and then you say, oh, we're making a deal with Donald Trump, the world looks very different. So I think that's why everyone's very suspicious about this.
That's a really, really important point there.
And I think one of the things that's really important to understand is that there is a hierarchy of life, right? Like in American policy, Israeli lives are worth approximately 10 times what an American life is worth, right? And an American life is worth approximately twice as much as a British life, about 2.5 times a French life, about 3 times as much of a German life, about 3.5 times as much as an Italian or Spanish life, about 5 times as much as a Polish life, about 2.5 times a Japanese life, about 4 times as much as a South Korean life. Like, I'm just telling you, like, American policy is like that, right? And a Israeli life is worth 1,000 times a Palestinian life. That is the ghoulish exchange rate that we're living in. And I think a lot of people, they don't really like to reckon with that reality. One of the things you'll see in kind of diaspora populations in the US is they try to support American imperialism even on their own country in the hopes that they'll be regarded as white, right? If you support the Israeli American invasion of Iran, that's suddenly going to make Iranians considered white by the American population. If you support the American blockade of Cuba, that's going to make Cubans perceived as white by the American population. Like, that is the active policy regime that we are creating, where people are calling for the deaths of millions. Now, how does this stop? Well, the first thing is we have to make it politically costly to support Israel. When politicians start losing their jobs, like they started losing their jobs for supporting Vietnam, when politicians start losing elections, and when people start losing power, when they start being despised and hated, and they can't go to a restaurant, and they can't walk around home, they can't do a town hall, that is when things start to change. You have to make the political class pay a price. That's why supporting somebody like, say, for example, Abdul El Sayed or Graham Plattner or Zoran Mamdani, that's why it has value, because they represent a threat to the Democratic Party, to the establishment, to Democratic politicians who are not all that talented.
And it is, you know, if anything, it at least dispels this myth that Hamas is 100%, you know, Iran controlled. Because if it was, then they would be drawing a lot more red lines around that than they did around Lebanon, which genuinely does make a lot of sense. Thank you so much for your analysis and all the work that you guys are doing, Jeremy. We rely on you so totally to actually get the truth about what's going on. And keep us updated on Iran's view of Trump's psychology, because the audience seemed to really appreciate that.
All right. Take care. And thank you guys for your continuing great work.
Thanks, man.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show.
Israel occupied more Syrian land after Assad fled. Yeah, exactly. It's not about peace. It's about the project of greater Israel. God, I love Majority Report. Media smears against left candidates are backfiring big time. Oh, God, we got to react to this tomorrow, chat. The Hassan Piker Majority Report laughing at all the anti-Graham Plattner people. I wonder how people deal with the fact that Hassan agrees with me on Graham Plattner and Majority Report. I wonder how do you deal with that? How do you guys deal with that? What do you do? How do you conceptualize that? What's the cope? They say I'm not surprised. Then attack Hassan. Don't be a coward. Attack Hassan. Why are you so scared? Attack Hassan on Maine. What are you waiting for? Attack Hassan on Maine. Come on. Be principled. What, you too scared to be principled? Well, I thought you had principles. Say his name. Don't be a coward. Come on. Don't be afraid. Mike, you're a great person. See you tomorrow. Yeah. Oh, that reminds me. We didn't manage to cover it today because I was talking about the stupid iDubbbz bullshit. But I'm gonna have a guest this week.
I'm Maylot Kuros. I'm a lawyer, an immigrant raised in Denver, and I'm running for Congress because establishment Democrats have failed us. Diana DeGette has been in office for decades, backed by the same billionaires and corporations who keep our prices high, burn our planet, and profit from genocide. It's time for a change. It's time for Medicare for all. It's time to abolish ICE and to actually fight back against Donald Trump. I'm Maylot Kuros, and I approve this message.
So we're going to have her on this week. It'll be exciting. I'm excited. I hope you're excited. Why the United States men's national team is not a legit contender on the world stage? Landon Donovan is wrong. I think the men's team is going to do quite well. Why? One, home field advantage is huge in the World Cup. Host teams tend to go overperform. Number one. Number two, I think their performance, I think they're playing creative and they're not all up their own asses because there's not a lot of expectation that's giving them the tactical freedom to actually play full out and not having that the pressure of expectation is actually making them play in a more promising style, which is going to play to their strengths. Fam, USA isn't even top 10 globally right now. Bro, everyone's playing like shit. Curacao scored on Germany. I know that Germany ended up running up the score, but for like 25 minutes, the Germans were looking very, very beatable against the smallest country in history to ever make the World Cup. Everybody's playing like shit. Cape Verde drew Spain. The Australians parked the bus and beat the shit out of Turkey. Everybody's looking like crap. Qatar got a tie. Yeah. Everyone's playing like shit. I think the U.S. has got a good chance at making our deep run. Sweden beat Tunisia handily. Really? I kind of felt like their goals were pretty ticky-tack. I was not impressed. They had one good strike. Fuck, Scotland won. All the teams that I'm rooting for are like winning. It's funny. This is the worst Germany team in like 2 decades. Yes, I know. That's exactly my point with the U.S. I'm watching the U.S. games. I'm watching probably Austria's games. I'm watching Scotland's games, and I'm watching Iran's games. And then I might throw it on in the background. Those are the teams that I want to. I just like underdog teams. You know, maybe I'll watch a little bit of Mexico. I watch the teams I have a connection to. You know, because I'm not gambling. I like to have some sort of like connection to. Mike, I'm Scottish. We scraped a win in a game we should have won comfortably. It's soccer. There's no such... The thing about soccer, which is always fun, or football, is the way that people are always like, we're going to win comfortably, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, it's always a 1-0, 2-0 game. That's not true. You're not... Like, what the fuck are you talking about? This game is inherently... People play down or play up to their competition. That's part of what makes it so beautiful and fun. I hope Iran whoops ass on the pitch. Oh, I hope it would be funny. All right, well, everybody, I'm going to call it there. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. USA should play Haram ball. I mean, I think they should not play that way. I think they should play according to they have a very free-flowing style. I think they should lead into youth. They should lean into like high tempo. They should lean into like keeping the ball moving, keeping the opponents. They're not used to running in American heat. Wear them down. Exhaust them. America is hotter and more humid than Europe. Make them sweat. Make them puke. Fuck that. We don't deserve the World Cup, bro. Do the Knicks deserve the fucking championship? They have Wall Street in there. New York City has Wall Street. Do they deserve the fucking championship? Yes, of course. Counter tactics exists. Brazil. That's Brazil. I mean, didn't Brazil play like shit? Didn't they draw Morocco? Everybody's playing like shit. That's my point. Morocco is tiered. All right, anybody. Sorry, everybody. Stay safe. Solidarity forever. Here's all my links. Make sure you follow me. I'll see you tomorrow. I didn't realize the raid was about to happen. Peace out. All right. I'll see you tomorrow. Whoops. All right. I'll see you soon.